Ms. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Kukovic.
You have to unmute Steve.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Here.
Ms. Smith. Here. Mayor Galante.
Here. And if you will all stand and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So we have this work session today to help educate the governing body a little bit about the proposed new business that we're talking about for the possible ordinance change. I'm sorry, not new business, for the possible amendment to the commercial vehicle parking ordinance. Because this is something that's been so volatile in the borough for Pacon for probably 30 years, 35 years with commercial vehicles. The administrator, when we spoke about having the work session, it was suggested that we have the professionals that could help us with that, just to help enlighten the governing body with some of the information that goes with it. So what I'd like to do is just, I'll ask each of you to just kind of give a brief overview, and the governing body, if they have any questions or comments for you, but just an overview of what the ordinance is. Maybe we'll start with John, an overview.
We start with Bill.
Bill.
It usually ends with Bill.
Okay. So we'll start with Bill.
Begins and ends with Bill.
But an overview of, you know, what the ordinance is and the change and, you know, those types of,
Sure.
wherever you're comfortable with.
Used to hear so. Basically, this ordinance, when I started here, which was a little bit over 20 years ago, the ordinance basically prohibited the anything over 3/4 ton. So basically, you're a little bit, a mason dump would have not made it. And of course, we lived with that for a very long while, and right around 2017, the issue came up. I was, you know, asking some people about their vehicles and whatnot. And ultimately, of course, they actually, you know, came to question me, I guess, at the land use board or planning, zoning board, whatever it was at that point in time. And very basically, it was discussed, and a lot of thought and discussion was taking place, and ultimately they decided to amend it and actually allow a little bit larger vehicle. So they extended it to the 14,500 pound gross vehicle weight. And of course, all along you were always allowed to park if you had a garage large enough to house a vehicle in the garage. And of course, I mean, the 14,005 and the 3/4 ton is something I lived with, so that sticks in my head. The other numbers don't, and presently, I guess it's 19,500 pounds gross vehicle weight you can keep in a garage. So at any rate, it's already been bumped recently. Quite frankly, I mean, you're always, not always, it's not like I'm involved with one a month, no. A truck every couple months or so, maybe. It's not been a problem. Nobody is come to the board for any variances, because that is it is in the zoning section. And they could definitely go to the zoning board to ask for a variance in there to suit the particular needs of the situation. So actually, it's not been an issue for me. I don't know if it's appropriate to speak to the one case that we're involved with right now, but that happens to be, it's up on, and stop me if I shouldn't be speaking about it. But it happens to be with a vehicle that's being kept up on Roosevelt Trail, or was being kept up on Roosevelt Trail. It apparently was being parked on the, across the street in front of a vacant lot. It's a very narrow street anyway, and there were complaints, but they were directed to the police. And ultimately, the police, I guess, somehow encouraged this individual to park it over in front of his house. And of course, when they started doing that, it was, it's on a bit of a hill, and it was causing a bit of a sight distance for the individual who came to me who complained. So ultimately, that's, pretty much what I know of surrounding that scenario. I checked the vehicle. The vehicle, although the plate, it's a state-owned vehicle. It does not have commercial plates on it, which is normally my tell. I look, and if it's commercially registered more than 14,500 pounds, then naturally I asked them to find another spot to park it. But basically this was, it was more than the 14,500 pounds, and it was state-owned, but it was not noted as a commercial. So I checked with the police, and of course that didn't help. But it still was a commercial vehicle, so I asked them to remove it. The supervisor actually wrote me a letter, because I did it in that scenario, say that, look, if there's some state statute that supersedes our rules, fantastic, let me know and I'll back away. The supervisor, that individual, had sent me a letter, but very basically it did not, it said it was, the vehicle was used to respond to situations, but ultimately there were no ordinances or codes that they go by that superseded it. So ultimately that's, how, I guess that's why I'm here tonight. At any rate, I think the point is, from my standpoint, naturally, that's the overview of the enforcement and the issues, and quite frankly, there have been no outstanding issues. It seems to take care of itself. On a personal side, I could weigh in and say what I have to say, but it is up to the council to decide what they want. I would just say that, these are residential neighborhoods, and I think we want to try to keep them residential. And, people are always trying to expand that. I do have one scenario that I'm working with right now, and the people just bought the house recently. They have it's a large box truck. I had a complaint. I've contacted them. It looks like they've arranged to probably keep it out by Atna's old property, John Swanson's property. So that'll work out. But it does seem like people are coming to town, and they do want to try to either keep their, run a business and have the income somewhat attached to the property. And of course, that's a little bit of a push, because we really want them to be a residential property. But again, I'll be quiet on that point, and it's up to you guys what you want to do. So.
Can you give me a reference how big 14,500 pounds is and 19,500 pounds?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I truly do. I wish I could say it's, the difference between, the Mason truck back when I was, I knew that was what that meant. But in truth, your utility trucks, the full-bodied utility trucks, are I believe are going to be over the 14,500.
Okay.
I could say that 14,000 was really just, picked out because that's about where you're maxing out, where you have a dually or a larger pickup you're gonna be using, you're gonna use it as a third wheel for your pickup or things of that nature. So that's why that was pushed out. A 3/4 inch truck is just not large enough really to pull a camper or a boat or something like that. So it really was pushed out to be that larger pickup that people utilize. That's a more modern.
So that's
truck.
the top of, that's what we're
really-
talking about, the top. You're not talking about something big as an ambulance or a box truck or something.
that number was picked because that's what the market is creating for. That's more of a modern, larger pickup is that size.
Okay.
Because that's what you need to pull a large boat. That's
Sure.
what you need to pull a camper.
Mhm.
And so that's why that number was done. So it was really to accommodate, more of a modern vehicle, a more common vehicle for, so for people for recreational purposes.
Mhm.
So I got a question. Do you have a perspective, you've talked to a lot of the residents in the town. Do you have a perspective generally how neighbors feel about that? When they have one person parking a truck in a driveway?
Well, again, for the most part, it's pretty much the people who reach out to me, naturally because they're not happy with that type of vehicle. And at that point, I would say the general consensus is they don't want trucks. I've got some trucks that I can't do anything about. There's one over kind of by you there, that red camper. It apparently was turned into a camper or altered to be a camper, and it's got private plates on it.
Yeah.
So therefore, there's nothing I can do. It does not belong there. It just looks completely out of place, but there's nothing I can do with it.
Right.
So you're really using commercial plates as your
It's
dictator?
the commercial vehicle, yeah, if someone had I'd say it's a $40,000, 40,000 pound vehicle, if it's privately registered, I don't think
really-
it's appropriate for.
Even
this
if they have
ordinance.
words on the sides and all that?
Well, if it's privately registered, I think, you fellows might, if I've got a business name on it, then,
Not supposed to, but people do.
but I think then the state requires the poundage on it and whatnot, so that the state is set up so that if you're gonna have the lettering, I think you have to
Have commercial
have it
plates.
as a commercial, and therefore they're gonna put the gross vehicle weight on it down by the door typically, I'd see it there. So I've had people who had, I had one fellow who had a semi truck. A full semi truck that he bought it for a hobby vehicle. And of course, this was up on Fisk Trail a number of years ago. And I asked him to, it's a commercial vehicle, and he provided me the private plates. Luckily, he tired of it pretty quickly and it disappeared. So that problem went away. But that would have enlisted many complaints.
So is there a difference between it being registered as commercial and being registered as a state government vehicle?
Not that I'm aware of. The state probably has a category for their vehicles. This vehicle that we're talking about is a full utility body, utility truck that's registered higher, in a higher than the 14,500 pounds. And I just took the position that it's not privately registered. It was registered for the state, and it was definitely a commercial vehicle.
So when the police run the plates, there's not a different category for a state registered vehicle?
Again, you'd have to ask the police on that one. I've never had to, this is the first state registered vehicle I've ever had to deal with.
So I think that I have received information from the chief that it's a different registration.
Okay.
So I think for me, it's like the semantics between commercial is weight or the way it's registered. Right? So if it's registered as commercial and it's a certain weight, it's commercial. But if it's registered privately or individually and it's a certain weight, it's also commercial. Or if it's registered state government and it's a certain weight, is it commercial? Do you understand where
This
I'm?
to be a wee bit of a nuance.
Correct,
in my
I
head-
agree with
in
you,
my
but
head.
like,
Meaning that in the way I interpret and try to practice what I do.
right,
The police can most definitely tell you the specifics of those types of categories.
Mhm.
For me, I'm kind of trying to look at this. If it's commercial and it's over 14,500, it's hit the easy button. That's
of
for
course,
me.
right,
Okay.
right.
I've got other situations where these vehicles are absolutely they're commercial vehicles. And however, if they do have private plates on them, truly private plates, you know, it's like a gentleman with an army truck, you know, I mean, it's a hobby vehicle, and I suspect they have a right to have this vehicle. And we don't cover that in the ordinance, so, at that point, you know, for private plates, I leave it alone. In this case, it was a state vehicle. It is used commercial, I mean, it's used as a utility truck to go around and repair traffic lights or whatever all they do. So, I mean, that's a commercial use. And aside, I had complaints on a school bus years ago over in the Heights. And these people were pretty tenacious about the complaints, so ultimately I tried, you know, because what happened is the person who was driving it stopped home in the, you know, when they weren't doing any runs during the day, and then, you know, take care of whatever they did at the house. I did bring it to Judge Balkley, because we did end up having to test it, and I wrote a summons, and Judge Balkley, and again, school buses don't have commercial plates. Judge Balkley found it to be a commercial vehicle and said they couldn't park it. You know, as per our ordinance.
Christine, this is a 19,500 pound truck that was illegally parked outside my building, just
Mhm.
so you reference the size.
Yeah. No, because there's someone in our neighborhood
That's a 19.
that has 4 vehicles parked, and I think you went to him with a notice. And then they had to be in the driveway, so then he ripped up half his lawn and gravelled his front lawn. So now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commercial vehicles that don't have names on them and don't have commercial plates. But he's running a landscaping business out of it.
How are they not commercial plates?
Cause he's just doing he's like an odd job kind of guy. And I don't wanna pick on him, but the same way, it's awful. I mean, you drive by, you can barely see the house. There's 5 massive vehicles in front of his house.
Right.
So it doesn't qualify for him to do anything. And there are other situations that we've driven by over the years, you know, when I go everywhere and I see things that are just sitting for, you know, and they have plates on them, but the lid is open for 1.5 years, you know, the hood and the engine and everything, and it's snowing and raining, and it's on a main road. I mean, do we want it to look pretty around here? Do we want, you know, do we want to let people stretch the envelope? Is
So-
what I guess what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, so we have 10 minutes left in the work session, just
Yeah.
so we're all aware. So that sounds like a big inconvenience, but I think that's outside of the parameters that we're discussing
Of this one,
specifically. Yeah, so 24217, the prohibited use ordinance, we're only adding one sentence. And the only sentence that's being added is that this section also does not prohibit the parking or garaging of a vehicle registered to the state of New Jersey, so long as it does not exceed 19,500 pounds. Now, we all know if you drive around town, the commercial vehicles are here. The cars with the commercial plates, they're everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So if we were to, and there are multiple state government vehicles, and, you know, I'm not gonna provide their addresses. I don't know who is and who is not protected by Daniel's law, so I'm not gonna say anything on record in regards to that. But there's more than one, and I would prefer to avoid future scenarios of state government vehicles with a plate that says state government, you know, being an issue especially if they're required for work as an emergency responder who requires
that's
24/7 access to their
That's
cars.
the key. We're looking to make this change because of the emergency. You know, this particular situation, this individual has to go out in the middle of the night, and it's more convenient for him to have the truck at his home.
No, it's required. It's required. The letter from his employer stated required 24/7 access.
Okay, well, but it's not required to be strictly right at his home. Right? He has to have 24/7 access to it, but if it was down the street in the parking lot, he can still get it. But the point is that it's to be used for emergency situations where he has to get up and go. The fact that it's a state registered truck is just a carve out that we're trying to make to accommodate this particular situation. So we're either going, you know, if we want to look at anybody that has to provide emergency service in the middle of the night, maybe that's what we should be looking at. But carving out for simply a state registered vehicle, to me, seems like we're trying to be exclusive to a particular group of individuals. I don't think that is necessarily appropriate for what we're trying to accomplish here.
Could we hear from Bill O'Connor, smidge before we're
Thank you.
building subcode official Bill O'Connor, sorry.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Sounds more official that way.
Okay, just a little bit for the current, for the commercial vehicle. To have a commercial driver's license, 26,000 pounds is the limit. Up to 26,000 pounds, you don't need a commercial driver's license. Over that, you do have to have a commercial driver's license, no matter whether it is state or personal or however, not personal vehicle, but in a commercial, if you work for a private contractor. So
Okay.
that's just for that end of it. And it does have to be lettered. If it's a commercial vehicle, it does have to be lettered by law. That's through the Attorney General's office. That's
Okay.
their law for it.
Mhm.
For me, I don't enforce the zoning laws. But I deal with different laws and all that. I am of the opinion that to try to carve out one little niche for, I'm not gonna say this particular one, but just state-owned vehicles. If the state wanted to, the state could make it mandated that they're exempt from all zoning laws. But they have not done that.
Mhm.
The other thing is that, me personally, I think it is that the way it's set up right at the moment, they're entitled to ask for a variance. And at that variance, now, if you want to make that easier for them to apply for, so it's not so expensive, that would be one avenue also that might work. Because you don't need the engineer to review it. It would just be the attorney to write the resolution and then just the fee for the application. So you could work on something along those lines.
What's the current cost for a resident to come before the land use board to request a variance?
Right now, it's approximately $1,500 to $1,700.
That's a lot of money for a Hopac resident to go to get a green stamp to continue to do their jobs day in and day out.
No,
That's my opinion.
But that's including the engineer.
Mhm.
And that's what's up front. And if it's less, then they get some back
Mhm.
off of it. So that's what I'm saying, that if you lower the amount for the application fee and just the thing, you're talking about probably around $500 in order to do it that way. Because the resolution's about $350, $400 for the resolution. But with that, though, they would have to have notice, in my opinion, they would have to still notice, and that would give the residents that it affects their opportunity to speak to see whether or not it really makes sense for them to let it in their neighborhood. Because they're the ones that have to listen to the truck backup alarm coming off, the truck running in the middle of the night. And these are the complaints that I do hear from people, okay? But that way you would give the opportunity to be, due diligence on their part to come to the, to the meeting to express, and if they don't, then there's really no reason to have it. And then you'd also look at, see whether or not the vehicle can be parked on their property, or it has to be parked in the road, and then the DPW has to go around it in the wintertime.
Mhm.
So the system that we have, it's been almost 7 years thereabouts that we've had. And this is truly the first issue that's arisen. So to rewrite a whole, an ordinance just for that, I don't know. I don't think it really benefits the town.
Yeah, well, and for everybody's clarity, we're not rewriting an ordinance. Again, we're adding one sentence, but I think we do have to look at the processes between council, the land use board, because again, $1,700 for a resident to come before the land use board, right? Bill can continue, and I'm not talking LE, so Bill can continue to get complaints, but if this resident doesn't have the means to come before the land use board, then they're kind of SOL.
Well,
So they're now in a predicament, and if we wait for the state to do anything, we're not ever gonna get anything done. We are the government, we are the local government, we represent every resident in this town.
Right.
I do not feel it is fair for any resident, not just this one, to have to pay that amount of money to do their jobs, what they need to live day to day.
well, that's a fair point, except though, the other thing is what happens when you're the neighbor and you're struggling just to pay your bills and you have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't sleep because this guy has a commercial vehicle there that's keeping you awake at night.
It's not running.
It is when he
You
goes.
don't, in the wintertime, they warm up the trucks. They don't just jump in the truck and go. They warm them up. I mean, that's, for me, again, you can look at it however you want. Obviously, you're for it. That's great. That's what makes it a horse race.
We may have a process problem, in terms of being able to make it a little bit more affordable for people to come from the land use board, I think that's the problem we should be tackling. I mean, I'll bet you we
Correct.
spent $1,000 in, you know, fees so far just talking about this particular issue. So I don't think it's fair to actually put that dollar burden on the residents either. But I think if we have a process issue where it's costing too much for a resident to come to the land use board, that's what we should be discussing.
I've already had the conversation with Chairman Ray, so I'm waiting for the conversation to come up at the, whatever land use board it decides to get discussed at, but I've already reached out and had the conversation with him about the cost. It's too much
And
across
coming
the
up with
board.
an alternative. You've also had the discussion with him
Correct.
about an alternative.
Mhm.
I'm all for that. I'm all for having that discussion, but, you know,
Well,
carving this out to a very specific niche just doesn't, seem like it's the best way to go about it.
Well, my point though
These
is
guys burnt up all the time and I got like a minute left.
Yeah.
I might as well say something.
I'm done.
Can we eat into the
No.
executives?
We can,
Sorry.
because Ray's not here.
Okay, all right.
No, Ray said he was gonna be
Yeah.
a minute or two late.
Okay, so.
Told him I would
we
create a
got this
distraction.
already.
You're the distraction.
Yeah.
But certainly it was important for, Bill and Bill are in the trenches, they get the calls, I usually get the call if it's really extravagant and there's a real issue and stuff, but, looking at this from, this is a decision of the council, you really have to weigh, the quality of life for all residents, not just one, and you're looking at, you certainly, you're not doing your job if all of a sudden you pass an ordinance, you start getting a lot of complaints, so,
Right.
you wanna balance that out.
Mhm.
But certainly just noting the land use or, land use board, that's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous to spend that much money to come into the
Absolutely.
board. Frankly, I don't even think you need a resolution, really, someone can just come to the board, minimal fee, the board can hear it, and then Bill can actually add any conditions imposed on by the board to put it right in the zoning permit, and don't even have an attorney with a resolution, just have it right in the zoning permit that this was issued, these are the conditions. But it is good to vent that in the board, because you do get the opportunity of the residents coming around. The board may impose some minimal conditions to kind of balance everyone's needs and concerns and issues, and it just kind of, allows neighbors to vent their concerns, and so you can try to balance, usually, the board usually doesn't, vote no on applications, they find the right solution, and that's what they do, they don't look to deny someone, they look to, let's find the media that works for everyone, and that's
Right,
what they
right.
do, so, certainly, that's an option to consider, is to, look at the board, make it very simple, because if someone, you're not having the professionals review anything, it's really just having the board delegate on, or hearing the complaints, or hearing what they're gonna do, and sometimes, the board can look at a piece of property and says, you're gonna fit that truck, you have no driveway, that's gonna be parked on the road, or how are you gonna handle that, how you gonna do, and those are the things that can be vented out, and you find a solution.
So do you recommend, if that's a direction that council wants to go, do you, instead of the ordinance alteration,
Yeah,
do you suggest, putting something together as the engineer that we can send to land use to ask them to put onto the agenda to have them discuss to get this moving?
Yeah, that's a purpose of a work session, is let's vent it out, let's work out, some of the concerns, let's work out the details. And certainly that could be is having the land use board to give that consideration, let them give their input and by all means, there's, really need to step back and a resident should not have to spend that much money to come to the board just for something so simple.
Absolutely.
It is.
That work
crazy.
session idea is a good
Yeah.
idea.
So
Yeah.
he can call to the office tomorrow and schedule that work session?
It doesn't exist yet, so that's why I asked
Well,
if John
no,
would
do
do
the
the
I
application.
think he was referring to this work session as an opportunity to work this out.
So
Yeah.
the next step would be for the homeowner to contact.
Now, I think the next step is we create a process to, instead of the current process, we create a new process with probably a very small application fee, and the person would apply to have their commercial vehicle parked at their home, or, however we want to word it, and then it would go to a land use meeting for them to talk about and approve or deny.
Yeah, I
So I
think
do
the
have-
biggest expense for an application would be, getting the 200-foot list, and hopefully they don't have 20 residents, 20 neighbors, but
Yeah.
200-foot list may only be, 5, 10 properties, and then, certified mail to send that out, they may have to spend $50, $75 for the certified mail.
Mhm.
And so that's where you want people, that's the most critical component of this,
Yes.
for the borough to, $25 fee, come in, this is gonna go in front of the board and deliberate in front of the board. It's not an expense that the town really has. You're filling out a form, you're filling it out, and the board deliberates. So make it simple. That's my suggestion. Make it simple.
And you don't think that you'll have other commercial vehicles come through for
That's
that?
fine.
Well,
Everyone has a right to come forward
Gotcha.
and do that, but the board, everyone has is unique, every case is a case by case basis. The board can deliberate on that, and they can do that right now. Anyone can come in and ask for that, but I think that the board deliberates on what they feel is appropriate. If someone wants to have a commercial vehicle and they're out in the end of the boonies and no neighbors whatsoever, maybe that isn't something that they do. But then the board imposes those conditions, right, in the zoning permit, what they have to do, and just kind of impose it that way. Because, every situation is unique where, maybe a condition or two is warranted just to keep the peace in the neighborhood.
So with that, and I agree. So with that, just the other side of that, with that being said, then why have an ordinance at all restricting commercial, which we should, and I agree, we should have a restriction completely. And that's why I think I agree with the process, but if you're gonna allow any resident with a commercial vehicle to apply to potentially be granted permission, then why have restrictions at all? I don't think any commercial
Well,
vehicle.
again, that's the
Right.
council could make that decision.
Right.
They're gonna open this up only to,
Mhm.
you're gonna have an exemption for either military or state or federal.
Right.
Those, and you can certainly start to manipulate this. This is the discussion that we're having. But certainly, you don't want to get to the point where, everyone has a right to ask,
Right.
they should have a right to ask.
But-
And so, if someone if you're going to say, why issue variances then? Let's just throw the code out and let's just,
We're not gonna do that, I'll tell you that.
So it gives you that balance, and certainly, my suggestion is just not focusing, but, deliberate, don't talk
Right.
about it. You can refine that.
John?
I forgot you were there. I just jumped. Go ahead, Steve.
A question, what is the bare minimum that we could assess to a resident to come before the board? Well, you mentioned $350, $400 or 500?
No, I think the biggest, what you don't want to compromise is getting the 200-foot list and doing these and doing the certified list, getting the mailing out to the neighbors, so the neighbors can come to the meeting and vent any concern, so that the board, if the resident has a valid concern or a valid issue and the board can find a compromise that can work with everyone, that's what we want to accomplish. So
Yeah.
recognizing that, the people are gonna spend money on that certified list and getting those letters out, we don't wanna overburden with a $500 application fee or, even $100 application fee, because, this is gonna be something that the board's gonna likely spend, if they get no complaints or no issues, it's a 5-minute conversation in front of the board, or it may be, a 10-minute or a half hour at the most, deliberate. So you just, you may have to give the board members a raise.
We'll double their salaries.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Now, what is this gentleman supposed to do in the meantime until he's able to?
I
Come in
don't
front of the
think
board.
we need to, if there's something in the works, I think we can be reasonable and recognize that
Yeah.
something is in the works, that we don't have to issue a summons, drag them into court, recognize that, we're here to help the residents. That's all, what we're here for. So, let's work it out. Let's not drag, certainly, my understanding, there is someone complaining, so we don't want to drag this out too long.
Right, of course.
Let's just vent it out, come up with the right solution, and, I wouldn't throw anyone, I don't think we should be issuing summonses right away. Give them an opportunity just as we're deliberating it.
As long as he's working toward it,
Yeah, exactly.
or the board is too.
Or we're working.
Right,
Right.
everybody collectively.
So my question to the council, since it's the work session is, don't you end up with the same result anyway? Whether we modify the ordinance or they come before the land use board to get that approval?
No, because it opens up a new
No, it
process.
doesn't.
It's gonna open a process for other people in the same situation, so that we don't have to keep coming back to this. If it's not necessarily a state vehicle, what if it's a federal vehicle? Like, we don't have to
Any-
keep changing the words. We would have a new process.
It's also discretion based. whenever somebody calls to complain, it's at the discretion of our zoning officer to issue a warning or a summons or anything. So just because it says one thing, it's, again, I feel like it's the same end result. They can come and they can pay a fee, or the council can amend this to add a sentence in, so our residents don't have to go before any board to pay any amount of money. And again, if we do this, the floodgates are not open for state government vehicles to start moving into town and taking up, you know, all the streets.
I don't think that's the problem.
No.
I think the carving it out for specifically state registered vehicles, because what you're really trying to accomplish is somebody that has to get up in the middle of the night to tend to an emergency with their truck, right, needs to be able to have it close to them to be convenient, right? So then if we're going to do it for state registered vehicles, why wouldn't we want to do it for other types of vehicles where people have the same problem? They need their vehicle close to make it convenient, whether that happens to be tow trucks or what have you.
Because we have an ordinance saying no commercial vehicles.
I understand, but in the spirit of it, right, are we really trying to carve it out for one specific set of individuals? Or are we really trying to be fair to the, you know, to all of the residents that have that particular problem, right? The fact that it's a state issued vehicle doesn't mean that that's the only type of, a person that operates a state vehicle has that same problem. There's lots of other types of vehicles, commercial vehicles, where people have to go out and provide emergency services in the middle of the night. So we might be being fair to somebody that happens to have a state vehicle, but what about all the people that don't? And I think it just opens up a can of worms. I think we're carving something out very specific, and in the spirit of what we're trying to accomplish, we're not really getting it done.
Well, and it's by design though. It's to contain the cars that we want to have in town that again are already in town. So by allowing any commercial vehicle to apply, which is what we don't want, we can all, I guess, agree on that. We're quarantining it for a reason, to restrict it to the types of vehicles that we would essentially allow.
But I gotta look at it like when the next person, when the tow truck operator comes up and has the same issue and says, well, you allowed it for the state trucks, why wouldn't you allow it for me? We're gonna say to them, because we tried to keep it small so that nobody else could do it.
But there's
Just
an
the state
argument to every
vehicles.
ordinance that we have in place. So again, if we feel like we want to instill a new process, that's fine. The council can deliberate and decide to put a new process in place at the cost to the resident. That's it. So. Joe, Steve, do you guys have anything?
I do like the idea of going in front of zoning board, lower the fee, let the neighbors, if they have a concern, come express it, and if they don't, I'd like to see if he's able to park in his car. I am concerned about the visibility where he parks in a roadway. That might be potential hazard, right? So there's little things that we have to look into and not just make a decision, obviously, you know, for one individual, but I think we have to keep in mind the neighbors, most importantly, his neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just to add to that, and I think that's the reason why the fee is so high, right? Because I don't think we just grabbed that number out of the air, whoever did, whenever they did, and so we're going to try and make a money grab out of this. I think they made it extremely difficult to residents to maybe pay that fee and get the FaceTime with the zoning board because it would open up a can of worms for anybody and everybody, right? I think I know it's a blue collar town. I'm of the opinion that I don't think commercial vehicles of any nature should be in residencies. I know we need them for emergency purposes, but there's a way to get to those vehicles. Most of those people who work in an environment where they need to be available 24/7 have to live very close to where those vehicles are parked, because most municipalities do not let emergency vehicles in residential areas. So I understand everyone's point about maybe revamping the process and the fee, but that fee was there for a reason, and I think it was made very expensive for that reason, so it doesn't open up the floodgates.
Okay.
I don't know that I agree with that, but be that as it may,
I think we could also, though, along the vein of what John was saying and to agree with Rachel's point of it being something that a state worker, and I get that, I get the idea of wanting to work hand in hand, whether they're county workers or state workers or federal workers. So maybe it is something that we can work on where we do amend the process and it doesn't open it up to everybody, it just opens it up to those specific workers. So it's not open to all the commercial vehicles, it's open to state workers and, you know, federal workers and whatnot. We can work on a process that, you know, goes directly to that as opposed to just everybody in general. Because the ordinance, like Rachel was saying, the ordinance covers exactly what the ordinance covers, and that's been working just fine. This specific incident I think Bill said this was the only one that he's had, the zoning officer. So if that's the case, we could, again, work that specifically to just exactly what we're talking about and not open that up to everybody. Because you wouldn't have, it's not like you're gonna have the floodgates open with these emergency service vehicles for state, federal workers. But I think that that's something that we could certainly work on to be more user friendly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the board, like I made the statement before, the board doesn't deny applications, but that doesn't necessarily be the case. The board can look at a commercial, if you're coming in with a large box truck and it just doesn't fit in the neighborhood, the board can just say, no, that's inappropriate, and then give them advice, hey, why don't you go talk to this person, talk to that person, you can rent it over here and get it done. So the board, that's really, you know, the board, and I think just knowing the board, I don't think that's their intent is open floodgates and allow commercial vehicles everywhere. They're gonna push back and just say, this is not right, you know, we want to maintain that harmony within the in the neighborhood and just changing. I don't think a lot of people are watching ordinances, they frankly don't, and then if you change an ordinance to change a fee, I don't think it's gonna open the floodgates, because people won't even know. You know, isn't, and then, you know, the fees for the board, you know, you have to pay your attorney, you have to pay your planner, you have to pay your engineer to review an application, and that's what the fee's eaten up. Now, an application like this, those professionals don't need to review this. This is the board members can look at the property, look at this, and then they don't need, like I said, you don't even need a resolution. Bill can write it right in the zoning permit, exactly what the conditions are, and that's imposed right in the zoning permit.
Good, thank you.
So I think,
Well, thank you to all three of you for
Thank you
coming
guys
this
for coming
evening. We
out.
appreciate the
guys.
work session. We are actually going to go into executive session for the next 15 minutes. So if I can have a motion to go into executive and a second.
Joe, Jen will call you. Steve, I'm gonna give you
So
a
we're
call.
gonna have to ask everybody to leave the room for the 15 minutes. Sorry.
If I may just,
All right.
if the council or someone in the council is gonna tell this individual it's okay to park there until this gets resolved, please be of a common mind. Be it a resolution or something, that I'm not gonna be requesting. I'm not supposed to issue any sentences because there's
No, understood.
definite-
We're not anywhere near that though. Yeah.
Okay, well,
Thank
somebody
you.
said, what is he gonna do in the meantime?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah.
No, we just
Have a
know
good
you're not
night.
gonna do a summons.
Take care, everybody.
Pack on mini stuff. And all stars are in the house. I see them all here. We're gonna move on with our proclamations. We've already done our roll call and our flag salute and all of our other business that we have to do. So our first proclamation that we have this evening is for our tax assessor that we've had for many, many years, Therese DiPiero. I'm gonna read you the proclamation first and then I'll present you. So, whereas Therese DiPiero has served the residents of the borough of Hopatcong with dedication and integrity as our tax assessor for over 25 years. 28. Whereas Teresa's commitment to fair and accurate assessment has been a cornerstone of our community's financial stability, her expertise and professionalism has been invaluable to our local government. And whereas Teresa has since retired from the borough of Hopatcong, but we remain deeply grateful for her years of service. And whereas we recognize and celebrate her outstanding service, wish her all the best in her future endeavors. Now therefore, I, Marie Galati, Mayor of the Borough of Hopatcong, have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the Borough of Hopatcong to be affixed this 16th day of April, 2025. On behalf of the Borough Council and the residents of Hopatcong, we recognize and extend our deepest gratitude for her outstanding service and do hereby proclaim April 18th, 2025 as Therese DiPiero Day. And we have this beautiful crystal for you that reads Hopatcong Borough, Therese DiPiero, Tax Assessor. Thank you for your time and dedication. 1996 to 2025.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you.
Our next proclamation is for Frank Steinberg. You want to come up, Frank? You wanna come up?
I'm standing.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks.
So whereas Frank Steinberg, a dedicated and valued member of Hopatcong Fire Department, has retired from his position as fire marshal after over 20 years of service. Whereas during his tenure, Frank demonstrated exceptional leadership, unwavering commitment to public safety, and a strong dedication to the well-being of our community. His contributions have been instrumental in ensuring the safety and security of our citizens. And whereas his tireless efforts and professional expertise have left a permanent mark on the Borough of Hopatcong Fire Department and the lives of those he has served. And whereas we recognize and celebrate his outstanding service and wish him all the best in his future endeavors. Now therefore I, Marie Galati, Mayor of the Borough of Hopatcong, have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the Borough of Hopatcong to be affixed this 16th day of April, 2025. On behalf of the Borough Council and the residents of Hopatcong, we recognize and extend our deepest gratitude for this outstanding service. Wishing you a happy and fulfilling retirement, and here do proclaim April 17th, 2025 as Frank Steinberg Day. And Frank's plaque says Hopatcong Borough, Frank Steinberg, Fire Marshal, May 2003 through December 2024. Thank you for your service.
Very much.
You are welcome. Okay, so this one is for our mini stars. Mini stars coming up. So this one is for our mini stars. Whereas the mini stars from Hopatcong Warriors competition cheerleading has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to excellence and exemplifying the best qualities of teamwork, dedication, and sportsmanship. And whereas the Mini Stars took home the most creative dance award at their first competition, setting the tone for an unforgettable run. At the Hackettstown competition, they stunned the crowd with the second highest score of the entire session, also earning their very first overall score of 90, making a huge milestone for the team. And whereas they also had 8 girls from the team mastering elite combo tumble passes with the rest of the team pushing their limits and showing incredible growth in levels of appropriate skills. During their first Globals National, they placed 3rd, proving that Hopakon Warriors competition cheerleading team is here to stay and ready for even bigger victories ahead of their new division, 1OU, IOU, 1OU, 10U. Thank you. Whereas the team brought pride and recognition to the Borough of Hopakon through their outstanding performances, inspiring their fellow students, teachers, and supporters, showcasing their school spirit, all while being led by exceptional coaches, and have provided guidance, mentorship, and encouragement to helping cheerleaders achieve and reach their full potential. Now, therefore, I, Marie Galati, Mayor of the Borough of Hopakon, and the entire Borough Council commend them for their outstanding achievements, hard work, and dedication, the excellence, and hereby do proclaim April 21st, 2025 as Mini Stars Day.
Yeah.
This is Coach Amy.
1, 2, 3. Thank you, ladies.
Good job, guys.
The All-Stars are next. A lot of us are on vacation. That's okay, it's a busy week, I know. So, here we go. Whereas the All-Stars from Hopakon Warriors Competition Cheerleading has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to excellence, exemplifying the best qualities of teamwork, dedication, and sportsmanship. And whereas the cheer team tirelessly practiced and perfected their routines and had an undefeated streak. Through the 2024-2025 season, All-Stars achieved first place in the following competitions: North Hunterdon Spooktacular, Northeast Championships, West Milford Fall Invitational, Hopakon High School Chiefs Cheer Challenge, Hackettstown Rumble in the Jungle, Parsippany High School Best in the Nest, Ramapo High School Raiders Rumble, and placing 2nd at the Montville High School Impact Cheer and Dance. They rounded out their season placing 1st at the YCADA Globals National Champions, showcasing their talent and commitment to the sport. And whereas the members of the All-Stars from Hopakon Warriors Competition Cheerleading Squad are role models, bringing pride and recognition to the Borough of Hopakon through their outstanding performances, inspiring their fellow students, teachers, and supporters, showcasing their school spirit, all while being led by exceptional coaches who have provided guidance, mentorship, and encouragement, helping the cheerleaders achieve and reach their full potential. Now, therefore, I, Marie Galati, Mayor of the Borough of Hopakon, and the entire Borough Council commend them for their outstanding achievements, hard work, and dedication to excellence, and here do proclaim April 22nd, 2025 as All-Stars Day. Always so exciting to do those. Thank you, everyone. So you're all welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting if you'd like to, or if you want to, you can leave if you'd like to.
We'll give you guys a minute to head up and head out.
Thank you so much.
Good job, girl.
Right, for that, right. Well, nice. Well,
No, I've heard about it though.
oh my God. Oh, it's warm enough, trust me.
For
Get
what?
in the car and crank up the heat and go get ice today. We went last night again. Well, I've been there quite a few times. It's so cool. Mike had peanut butter cups some more.
Where?
At the, you know, the
Tuan.
line.
I love that
like-
place. Is Joanne?
Yeah, they're on.
Perfect. Okay, moving along, we finished our proclamations. We're gonna go to committee reports. I. Okay, moving along. I just have a few things. At a recent council meeting, we heard from residents who were deeply disappointed by the decision to forego this year's Memorial Day parade and only hold the ceremony. I want to be clear, the Borough of Hopatcong wholeheartedly supports our Memorial Day parade and everything that it stands for. Based on earlier discussions and feedback, there was a belief that the traditional format might not be needed this year. It's now clear that this was a mistake. The idea was never meant to cause pain or offense, and certainly not to our veterans or our Gold Star families, and specifically our Gold Star mother. We sincerely regret any hurt that this may have caused. We honor and deeply value the service and sacrifice of our hometown heroes, and especially our Gold Star mother, whose family has given the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Let this serve as a commitment that Hopatcong will move forward with both the Memorial Day parade and the ceremony. We want this year's events to reflect the respect and the gratitude we have for those who have served and sacrificed for our nation. If you'd like to help plan or volunteer for this important day, please reach out for our Recreation Superintendent, Max Vasile. We welcome all hands and hearts to help make this a meaningful event. Thank you for your continued passion, patriotism, and support for our veterans and our town. The best that I can say is that we're all human. Sometimes we do make mistakes. Sometimes our decisions are not the best decisions. We're happy that the public comes out to speak to us. And again, being the person that I am, I'm a caring person. I'm a very warm person. And I want people to remember me for that, not necessarily making the right or the wrong decisions. So we do have that up on Facebook. And if there is anybody that does want to help us, we really do appreciate any help that you can give us for that event or any other events. Today, we spoke with our planner. We do not have a decision yet about our affordable housing. This is something that is crucial to the Borough of Hopatcong's planning moving forward with our master plan, our open space, and several other things. The deadline was March 31st. The state said March 31st, you have to do these hearings by. Everybody in the state of New Jersey complied, yet we still have not heard from the courts. So it's interesting that we have to follow the state's recommendations, but they did not get their response to us yet. The Highlands Committee that we will be forming this evening, that will actually meet very quick. You have that on the agenda a little bit later. There are things that we need to do to be able to comply with Highlands also that we've been informed that we're not in compliance with. So that will be something that you'll be hearing a lot about. The Lake Hopatcong Commission, the weed harvesters will be in mid-May this year. There's evidence of early weed growth throughout certain areas of the lake already. The members of the Hopatcong Foundation will be going through the process of going to Washington to try to get some new funding for the Lake Hopatcong Foundation for the lake, of course. This is the third year that the trout study has been reporting. So this year, again, if you do catch a trout, there is a tag on it. They want you to register that you caught it. It's a huge promotion that they're doing right now. The Lake Hopatcong Foundation is also doing their third year for shrink wrap. They are collecting it May 3rd from 9 a.m. to 12 noon at the Jefferson Health Center. And also in Sussex County, the Sussex County Municipal Utility Authority, SCUMA, on 94 is also collecting shrink wrap Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 noon also. And that's pretty much every day that they're open. The Lake Hopatcong Foundation has collected over 27 tons of shrink wrap. That's a lot of shrink wrap. Everybody shrink wraps their boat. Everybody does the garbage thing. It ends up in the landfill. It ends up in terrible places. This was a really good pet project that Kyle Richter from the Lake Hopatcong Foundation had started, and it's booming, just absolutely booming. The other thing that the Lake Hopatcong Foundation is doing that I'd actually like to bring up to environmental, I'm glad that Jonathan is here with Lori. They're also doing an Adopt a Spot community cleanup, which is on April 19th from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. in front of the Nixon School. I thought it'd be a nice idea for us to maybe pick an area and try to do spot cleanups as opposed to just, I know we have the community cleanup coming up, on the 26th, but it might be nice to do just one area. I think we get a lot of people that would come out. Again, Environmental Commission has their community cleanup day on April 26th, and the shred day is the same exact day here at the municipal building. They're also doing the dedication of the seed library adoption for anybody that would like to come to that. If you notice today, we moved the book drop to be inside the municipal building, got moved to the outside of the building because it belongs outside, but that's where the seed library is going to be. I was actually out on Monday before our budget meeting. There was a meeting at the Wharton Municipal Building that the Economic Development Committee was at. And they were talking about the grants for everybody that the businesses are being affected by the sinkhole on Route 80. We all know how treacherous that is for us as we're driving back and forth to work, but it's even more treacherous for the businesses. And some of them that I've spoken to in the area, some of them are down between 40 and 60%, which is horrendous considering people are just surviving COVID. We have several businesses here in town that have reached out for me, and I've been trying desperately to figure out how this was going to work because nobody wants another loan. But when the grant program came out, that was this Monday, it was exciting. So a lot of us had gone down there and we got this paperwork to be able to fill out for grants, which is phenomenal, except as I went to go do mine later that evening after our budget meeting at 11 o'clock midnight, I realized there's no Sussex County zip codes on here. They're only offering it to Morris County businesses, but it affects Sussex County businesses just as much. And we border 3 sides of Morris County. So I was on the phone yesterday with several of our representatives from the 24th Legislative District and just saying this is really not good for Sussex County. It's certainly not good for Hopakon. We have people that could possibly lose their restaurants, lose their businesses. So I was really happy today when the letter came out from the 24th District going to the NJEDA, asking them to put Sussex County into that grant program. So very excited about this. Hopefully they listen because these grants are needed not just for the people in the Morris County area, but the Sussex County area and probably all the surrounding areas. I'm sure if they took 10 miles from the sinkhole around, that would work very well for all of us. But very happy that that came out today. I do want to remind everybody about the Citizen of the Year. We do have that. That's new this year. So anybody can nominate anybody in the borough of Hopakon, your mother, your father, your husband, your brother, your sister, your neighbor, the business owner. We've always done a Senior of the Year. You see the sign that sits out front here. We always have a male and female Senior of the Year. This year, we are going to extend that program for a Citizen of the Year. And that will be awarded at our June 4th council meeting, I think it is. So there are applications out front on your way out the door. They are available online also. And you can just return them to us and that will be great. Speaking of a new tradition, and do you want to start at this end, Rachel?
Sure. I'm going to read really quick so we can kind of get to the meat and potatoes of the meeting tonight. Congratulations to all the proclamation recipients this evening. It's not just the kids themselves, but the parents, the coaches, they all put a lot of time in. So it's, you know, an all around real team effort. So it's really nice to see everybody come to celebrate the community. I want to thank the Recreation Commission, the Recreation Superintendent, and the Fire Department for assisting with our Easter event. We didn't have great weather for an outdoor Easter egg hunt, but being able to do everything indoors at Company 3, we had, Wendy, over 200 kids come through for Easter eggs, and there was still a crap ton of Easter eggs stuffed with candy, but it was a great event. So thank you to everybody who made that possible. I'd like to thank the Environmental Commission. You guys did a great job with the rain garden. Excited to maybe see more of them around town. How was the work putting that in, John?
Not bad.
Not bad. And Lori? Lori, you took great selfies. Fire Department, the committee is meeting next week. EMS, they are always looking for volunteers. Please visit hopakonems.org for more information. From the police department, please be advised the Suffolk County Office of Mosquito Control will be conducting aerial applications on April 17th through April 18th between the hours of 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. April 13th through 19th is both the National Animal Control Appreciation Week as well as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. So thank you to our ACOs and our dispatchers for everything they do around the clock. The Northwood Community Association is meeting this weekend rather than just a standard meeting at the firehouse. We are having a work session meeting at the Roland May Eves Mountain Inlet Sanctuary for some community cleanup. The Hopatcon High School Drama Club is presenting The Lightning Thief, a Percy Jackson musical, May 1st through 3rd at 7 p.m. and May 4th at 2 p.m. And my last two things, they are gone, but the Warriors, they are doing their signing day on Friday, April 25th from 7 to 8:30 p.m. for cheerleading and football. And the Hopatcon Warriors competition team is doing tryouts April 30th through May 2nd. So if you have any interest, please reach out to the Warriors board for more information. And that's it.
Great. Steve, sorry,
Sorry.
Not just the report.
okay. Okay, Christine.
Okay, I'd like to remind everyone, you'll soon see the hometown heroes banners go up. And we are still accepting applications if you have a loved one that you would like to sponsor, that was in the armed services. The information is online as well as the applications, and I will get all the information. If you have questions, please contact me, Chris Smith. Okay, the other thing is to remind everybody, we still have the Safely Back Home program, which is for children that are disabled in some way, that can wander away from home and maybe get lost. We also have it for adult Alzheimer's and dementia patients. If your loved one is staying home with you and you're taking care of them, but you're afraid they'll disappear. This is a program where we get your clothing from you, and we embroider it with a phone number of the police department and a special code number. And we have all their information online so that everybody knows if the police see them or someone sees them, they know enough to call in and stay with the person and say, we found someone. And that way they won't get scared. They won't be taken in a police car or whatever. It's a fabulous program. We have over 28 people signed up for it. And it's just great. It's a wonderful program. So that is also contact me for that. I want to also congratulate all the cheerleaders from the Warriors. They're amazing, and it's so nice to see the enthusiasm. It makes it feel really, really special in this town. And I also want to remind from the real estate committee that we have a list of all the properties we own in Hopatcon that are for sale, and if any of them are interested or close to you but your property or whatever, look them over. If you have any questions, you can also reach out to anyone, Rachel or myself on the real estate committee, and we'll talk to you about that. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Jennifer?
Oh, Steve didn't have anything?
No.
Okay. I wanted to congratulate all the recipients of the proclamations tonight. I wanted to thank the Recreation Department and Commission for the Easter event this past weekend. It was a lot of fun, very cute. For Municipal Alliance, the next movie night is May 2nd at the high school football field in a lower level lot. Starts at 8:15 p.m. We are showing Dog Man. Popcorn and hot dogs will be served. Bring your own snacks and beverages and lawn chairs. The next Alliance meeting is May 6th. The volunteers are still needed. Please reach out to Valerie Fiorentino at valrose@optimum.net. For the school, they are sponsoring a puzzle tournament on April 23rd. Please reach out to Mary Burns at mburns@hopatconschools.org. Next Board of Education meeting and the final budget vote will be held on Monday, April 28th at 7 p.m. in the Administration Building. For the Community Center, the Center for Prevention is May 8th from 3 to 7. The Journey Bus is May 7th and 21st from 10 to 2. The Addiction Recovery Drop is the second and fourth Thursday of the month from 3 to 7. For May, there are 2 of them, May 8th and the 22nd. All Cancer Support Group meets the second Tuesday of every month from 7 to 8:30, and the date in May is May 13th. The Dawn Center for Independent Living Mobile Unit will be visiting on Wednesday, April 30th from 11 to 2. There is a townwide shred day on Saturday, April 26th from 9 to 12 at Borough Hall. Townwide cleanup is also Saturday, April 26th from 9 to 12, and they're meeting at Borough Hall. I think that's through the Environmental Commission. The center continues to have items for babies and animals available to all residents, open from Monday through Friday from 9 to 1. To what Marie said about the NJEDA grants, our LD24 legislatures actually sent out guidance to text the governor, urging him to add Hopatcon to the grants. And his cell phone, well, I don't know, it's his cell phone, 732-605-5455. I also want to wish everybody an easy Passover. I know we started Passover on Saturday, and a very happy and healthy Easter. That's it.
Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, real quickly, I just want to say thank you to Frank and Therese for, sounds like a combined um, number, about 50 years of service to the borough. So thank you so much for your hard work and dedication, and really congratulate whole pack on cheerleaders. I know they're a fantastic organization. I love to see when I'm winning against some of those zip codes that the mayor mentioned. So congratulations to those cheerleaders. That's
Muted himself.
Joe, you're muted, buddy.
hi. Did you guys not hear what I said?
Yeah,
we heard you.
We heard it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anthony?
Congrats to the proclamation recipients, of course, especially with the people that have served the town for many, many years, as well as all the young ladies in the cheerleading capacity. It was very nice to see. And I have nothing to report today on the committees.
Thank you. Administrators report?
Yeah, I will be brief, again, echoing the sentiments of the rest of council, congratulating all the proclamation recipients tonight. I also want to thank Pat Mason, our superintendent of DPW. He will be leaving the borough after 24 years of service, so I want to wish him the best on his next venture, and we'll miss him a lot. So we had our budget work session on Monday. Well, we had another one last Monday as well, but what's great about the budget work session was a lot of projects were discussed from council, and we are ready to hit the ground running with projects lined up for this year. And there's a lot of great things coming to Hackon. And you know, we're ready to go. As soon as next meeting, you'll start seeing some of these projects coming to life. Next meeting, we'll have on the agenda paving that was supposed to be done last year. We're going to be ready to go next meeting to award that contract. We're also going to see very soon improvements to Norita Field. We're ready to go on those as well. So I'm just really looking forward to all the all the improvements we're going to be making around town and all the projects that are going to be coming to life. Also later on the agenda tonight, we'll be appointing our next tax assessor. We just said goodbye to Therese DiPiero, and we have Kristen Numansky, who is here with us tonight, who will be joining. So a very warm welcome to you, and that will be on the agenda later. And that's all I got.
Thank you. Moving along to the auction of property, I am going to turn that over to our attorney, Madison.
Hey, good evening, everybody. We have 3 auctions tonight, and I just want to remind everybody that all auctions are subject to the terms of the authorizing ordinance. So, the deposit of 10% of the bid plus the $450 legal fees are due by the close of business at 4 p.m. on Monday, April 21st.
No, but
So it's Friday, 42.
Yeah.
No, we,
That's the holiday.
the office is closed, so
Okay.
we
Monday.
changed it to Monday.
It's 450. Okay, so our first auction of the evening is a conforming lot, which means that anybody can bid on it. You do not need to be an adjoining property owner to bid it. The property is block 70107, lots 6, 11, and 12, and the property is located on Isabel Avenue. The minimum bid is starting at $25,000. So do we have anybody here tonight prepared to make the minimum bid? Okay, so $25,000. Minimum bid. Is there anybody else?
Yep. Easter.
You saw me, correct?
Yes.
I did, yeah.
They said they.
Sorry, yeah. No, I saw you. Okay, going once. Going twice. Okay, Mayor, I recommend that the council take a vote to accept the bid of $25,000.
Can I have a motion to accept the bid?
Motion.
so
$25,000 for the property on Isabel Ave.
Motion second.
And the roll call.
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Okay.
That's it. So,
Congratulations.
yes.
Yeah, you win.
Get the name?
Yeah, the name.
Read your first and last name, Shauna. Is that what we need?
Yes, please.
First and last name, please.
Elizabeth, thank you. First name.
Elizabeth and Keith.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, the clerk.
Terwilliger, last name. T as in Thomas, ERWILLIGER.
Thank you.
So, okay, the next auction, there's two more. These are non-conforming lots, so the only people who can place bids on them are adjoining property owners. The first one is block 40909, lot 6. The address is 1 Toledo Court, and the minimum bid is $6,725. Is anybody here tonight prepared to make the bids? Okay. Once, going twice. Okay, Mayor, I recommend that we make a motion to vote to accept the winning bid of $6,725.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept the $6,725 for block 40909, lot 6, 1 Toledo Court?
So made.
Second.
And the roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, the name?
Oh.
Cameron Trout.
Thank you.
Okay, the second property under the non-conforming lots is block 40414, lot 39, and the address is 124 Jefferson Trail. I just want to remind everybody, this is a non-conforming lot. And the minimum bid is $9,800. Is there anyone here tonight prepared to make a bid?
Oh.
Nobody? Okay. Going once, going twice. Mayor, I recommend we make a motion to close the auction for no bids.
Motion
bid.
to close?
Well, no, because nobody was here to bid on it, so
Mm.
motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes. Okay, that concludes the auction for this evening. Do you need to do anything with the purchasers or your,
No, they can contact me tomorrow.
okay,
If I can get them meeting. No, you, we're extending till Monday, 4 PM. You gladly can come in tomorrow, Friday, any point.
no
If-
Friday.
Oh,
Not
I
Friday.
do apologize, no Friday. Thursday, Monday, by 4 o'clock, we'll get you taken care of.
And where do we come?
Right to the clerk's office. You're welcome.
Thank you guys for your interest and showing up. You guys are good to go. We'll just watch you as you walk out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to public comment. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Second,
All those in favor?
aye.
Meeting is open to the public for anything and everything that's on the agenda and off the agenda.
Oh, it's not been plugged in for a while. I don't think it-
If we were gonna get your work, I had to move it from Julia.
I didn't have it Monday.
If you'd like, if
I
you can
just
just,
didn't know. Yeah.
it's just a little easier for us to hear.
No, you're fine. You may know me when I talk my name. I'm Denise Krauselis, so I've
Hi,
emailed you
Denise.
guys. Hi. I just want to talk about that site. It's not the only site that's in town that's abandoned and unsightly, and I don't know why it's being allowed. I think there's one on Durban too. And, I take pride in our town and I just kind of I'm surprised that it's being allowed like that. We have such a beautiful town that's Hapakong brings people and nature together, and I'm very big on nature. I really love nature, and to just see these, egregious, unsightly things in town is just really heartbreaking, and I don't know why it's being permitted and why nothing is being done about it. That I just don't understand why this is not being taken seriously. I don't know any municipality who would allow such things to be going on, and it's just really heartbreaking. Like, there was a photography calendar a few years ago. One of my photos was in it, and it was a book, and that was taken in that area, and now that area is just a desecrated mess, and it's just really sad. Like, it was beautiful. I mean, I get it if like it was gonna be made into something where like a family could live. Like, I don't have children. If I had babies, like if I have nieces, if my nieces like they could like get hurt back there. Like I said, I seen children back there, like I don't wanna see that, and it's like dirt that's like right in my backyard, like right on my thing. And I've seen some on Durban too, that on Durban Ave, that's right by the school. It's not cool. Like, I don't want to see that in my town. Our town is too beautiful. Our town deserves better.
I agree.
You know?
Do you want to write do you want to say what the addresses are, or do you want to write them down and give them to?
12 Billings is
Okay.
one, and there's one on Durban. I'm not sure the exact address on Durban, but Durban, when you're coming down, when Durban, Durban School, the elementary
Like
school.
on the bend, that
Yes,
one.
on the bend, on that
Mhm.
bend is that way.
Oh, and it had the oil tank on it for a very long
Yes.
time that we got
That
removed.
whole area.
Yeah.
And there may be even two, but that whole like bend of Durban is stuff too. And I think there's another one too. I forget. I actually had and no, it's so funny, like my husband and I are getting a new deck, same floor plan, right? And like we wanted to get like steps, like we have one area of steps, and then we wanted to get steps. And like we couldn't get the steps down because it was like, oh, this is out of zoning. And it's like, okay, I can't have like some steps down, but like that like is like, okay, like it's just like I don't care, like whatever. It's like I'm not like mad about my deck, but it's like okay, like you know what I'm saying? Like that's allowed, but like I couldn't have like steps in my
Right.
backyard.
Can we write the address down, Shelby, and just maybe ask tomorrow?
No, she's.
I told
Okay.
I know. It's
Okay.
just I know like I'm being like obsessive about it, but it's like I've been looking at that. It's like, it's like I work from home. My cats are jumping on my desk, right? And I have to look at it every day out my window to my kitchen, look at it every day. And it's not just like, I don't just think about me, and like, I don't care like just about me, but like I said, I see people walk, the dog walkers, I see like dogs trying to go in it, like, and kids like trying to go in it, and like I say, our town deserves better, like people deserve better than like having to see that. And like I said, it's rust, there's, like, I have pictures, like I can show you, I mean, I showed you.
No, we
pictures.
believe you.
Like, the uncapped rebar, not fenced, like, I mean, it's rowdy, like, it's not like some like little thing, it's rowdy. I've never seen anything like it, like, and it's not just been like, a couple weeks, it's been like a year, and, I love my town, I'm very nature. I would happily show you what it looked like before, like, this is what, I'm like, not even kidding, like, I'm a big photographer, like, this is what it looked like before. I'm not afraid to show you this is what it looked like before.
It's beautiful.
Right, isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? That's here. This is what it looked like before.
It was pretty. Yeah.
Well, the administrator has it and it sounds like that's being worked on. So it's the process.
I
which
know,
unfortunately is-
I just needed to hear, like, I'm like, it's better to just talk to somebody face to face than like you can. And it's not just that, it's other areas and it's
Well, again, we do have the zoning officer that's responsible for property maintenance and things like
The
that. And that office is
construction.
open
Yeah.
every day.
yeah.
So, feel free to let them know what it is, because they don't have the ability to drive around and see these places. So
Yeah.
they rely on,
They're aware of it.
they rely on people reaching out for them and letting them know what it is. So-
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's-
but if the administrator's in the loop now, though, I think that's
Yeah.
the only point of contact at this point you
there's
need,
other
so.
Addresses, if you wanna shoot them over. in an
Yeah,
email,
I don't know,
that's-
because it's not like it's specifically, it's generally an area, like I don't know what the address
You
is.
can always send a picture, I'm sure.
Yeah, if you
Send a
send,
picture.
send that info over and I'll get in touch with.
I can try to
zoning
Zillow
and-
it, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'll show you, or I can
Great.
photo
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you for coming out
Thanks, guys, I
tonight.
really
you.
appreciate you
Mhm.
listening, like I really do,
Mhm.
thank you
Thanks.
guys. Mhm.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Raleigh. And last week I had heard, it was the meeting that was here last week, I wasn't able to attend. But the new CFO and auditor found $1.9 million in grant money that wasn't filed for reimbursements for completed projects prior to and up to 2023. Is there a way that we can get that back and give the taxpayers a break? Because I also heard that our taxes now are going up 10%. And I mean, with everything else going up, our wallets are being stretched to the limit.
Do you want to answer that, Charlie?
It's, so. If.
Yeah, why don't we,
yes,
our
yes.
auditor is here, so why don't we have, I'm sorry, I didn't need to put you on the
No,
spot, I just wanted it to
I
come from
don't- I don't know how to answer it. so
Yeah,
Ray
our
may
auditor
be
is here,
better
he
one
can
to
answer
answer
that.
it.
Yes.
Can I answer just from here? Do I have to stand?
No, you
Now
can say,
you can sit down.
So I think there's a little bit of confusion on the $1.8 million of grants. There is still grants receivable out there, but there are also grants appropriations offsetting those receivables. And so we are working on an analysis to see what grants can still be collected and which ones can be canceled. But the grant situation and the budget situation are two completely separate issues. The tax increase is not related to the grant issue.
So like, what do you mean by canceled? So that means that we're not getting any money back to give us relief?
Well, so what would be canceled is there's a receivable
Mhm.
and there's also an expense. And you would cancel both of those against each other, an asset and a liability against each other. So hopefully there is no impact to the borough to have to make up that money.
So, but if we have to make that up, like what happens? Do our taxes keep going up and we get stuck with that?
Worst case scenario, there may be some appropriation, some funding for those grants at a later point in time. They still need to be analyzed. I don't believe the number will be anywhere close to $1.8 million at that time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ray.
thank you, Ray.
I just have a little piece of paper, because I only have one question, not a statement. I'm asking a question. How did we spend $65,663 on engineering services since January till now? And I may have missed a couple because it got a little blurry, but I think I caught them all. But March, $26,572 we paid the engineer. April, $18,145.72. So I'm completely baffled how we're spending that in the first quarter, what it's going to. And my fear is this is $250,000 worth of billing in a year if we keep up at this pace. with a budget that we're going up 8.9% that you're billing. And I'm hoping, and I know Shelby, you're doing a great job and you're following the procedures. Welcome, CFO. Love your stuff you're putting into the reports. This has got to stop, and I'd like to know what the heck we spent $65,000 on engineering services in the first quarter of the year on. And that's the end of my question. Thank you.
Is that only for one? Is that only for one of the
That's-
engineering
that's
firms?
just from January until now. January, he billed 1583.30, 4092.17, 360.83, 6,936.28. February was billed $3,668.18, $6,353.20, $3,987.46. March was $14,566.31, $12,005.75, and April was $93.23, $697.07 and $8,125.85. That's, and hire a full-time engineer. This makes no sense.
So we'll look into those then and get an answer back to Lynn. Is that the guidance?
So I think I had, yeah.
Some of it is for land use, and that comes out of the escrows going back
Is Brushke our attorney, is our engineer?
He used
Right,
to
but
know
she's
that
just
for
talking about from January.
Yeah, but he started this year for land use. We just recently switched. So some of it is coming out of land use escrows. It's not just borough engineering.
Lynn, did you hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
He started at the beginning of the year reviewing all land use policy procedures and such. You've since taken the firm away from that, but still, $65,663 is two people's salary in your borough. Knock it off. You're raising my taxes 8.9%. I
Well,
expect some fiscal
we'll
spending.
absolutely get you an answer for what it is.
Thank you. Again, I requested purchase orders be attached to any of these large payments so we can see what you're doing, but no purchase orders are ever attached to large capital expenditures.
That's not a feasible thing to do. That the packet would be like,
I know that.
this is just like, that would just be like for, like 10% of the bills like that. It's just not feasible. Like, we're already killing trees enough with the packet we put out. So that's not gonna happen. You can do an Oprah request though for anything that you wanna see, and that will be provided to you, but I'll look into this and see exactly what these charges are, because I don't think that that's what we're paying just for the engineering services. It's not that high. So I think that there's
engineering services when I look.
Yeah, but I think that there's a different, I think there's different things that we'll look into it.
So land use board would have to be pulled out of those as a separate,
Yes.
So
that
it's all,
comes
it's
out
all
of
on the same bills
escrows.
list.
right?
Cause those come out of escrows paid by those before land use. They're not paid for by the, or, like, it comes on our bill list,
Yeah,
but they're paid
it's
out of
like
the
a it's like a
escrows
pass
for-
through.
Yes,
Can we get Lynn that answer maybe before the next meeting?
for the next, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will that do, Lynn?
I can wait till next week.
Oh,
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
We said before the
Actually,
next
3
meeting,
weeks.
that was okay.
Isn't it 3 weeks? What?
Time.
Time what?
Okay.
Anybody else?
Hi, how you doing, Mayor? Glad that you brought up Highlands. What does a property owner have to do in order to apply for Highlands plan conformance? Apparently I applied and I was approved, but I didn't know.
You applied and then you didn't know that you got approved?
Well, according to the reports, I was.
Okay, so you applied for it.
No. Who would I ask about that?
You would have to ask the Highlands to see who actually applied for that for you.
Should anybody be applying for anything for me?
Absolutely not, but they might know something about it. If you applied for something, the borough has no way of knowing
No, I
something that you
absolutely did
applied
not.
for. Or someone else applied for you.
Right. And when we were talking about auctioning of properties, does the borough have to advise me if I purchase a property at an auction? And then they change the address?
I'm not familiar with that. Is that?
Yeah, I found one Broadway. Never existed before. That's supposed to be my property.
I'm not familiar with the situation in One Broadway.
Does somebody want to help me with that?
It depends on what you're looking for. If you have a piece of property that you're paying taxes on, then it exists and it's your property.
Right, but who else has the ability to add an address that never existed before on taxes, that property I'm paying taxes on?
I don't know who could possibly add an address to any property that you have.
Mayor, the real estate committee will look into that if you want us to. So we'll,
What's the address you have?
Nadine, do you have the paperwork that I can take a look at?
I'll provide you all the paperwork.
Okay,
It's all
perfect.
getting
What was the address
organized.
again?
The property that I purchased was 302 Santa Fe Trail.
What was the Broadway address?
That's the one I was given a deed for, but then, it changed to 1 Broadway. That makes my deed not good, right?
We'd have to look. We don't want to advise you right now until we can look to see what the parameters of the
I'm
situation
assuming
are.
that the addresses have to match.
Well, the block and lots have to match. The address sometimes is related to the post
Post
office
office.
and it's related to, depending if it's a corner. If it's a corner, sometimes it's recognized by where the front door is. So it could have been,
Well, it's an empty lot, so it doesn't have a front.
could
door.
have had a structure on it at one time and the front door faced
Nope,
one direction.
Never did. I mean,
I can't explain.
we tried to keep that part wooded as well as the other one. and
Yeah, I can't
we're-
explain
I'm
it.
glad you mentioned saving trees. But 2 lots got completely cleared. Not a bit of retention. Now, would the borough also be interested in making sure that they assist me in, there were some lots behind me that changed dimensions over the years. I'm glad that I tracked them. If anything's encroaching on my property, would you want to make sure that that's addressed?
That would be something that,
Especially that it's up for sale now.
that's something that you would deal directly probably with zoning with. This board would have nothing to do with it.
Okay, and in regards to zoning, would Hopakon be willing to help me? I'm not sure exactly what you do, sir, as an auditor. Do you mind?
You have, Nadine, you have to keep your questions up here to the board.
Oh, I'm
They have to
sorry.
be directed to us, not the audience.
I apologize. I didn't know. Okay. I just didn't know if it was something that, now. If I have property that's been stolen from me by theft, by what the zoning department said was a felony, would you aid me in assisting?
You're more than welcome to go to the police department. This board cannot file any claims for you. about
Yeah, but
property.
unfortunately, I'm not getting a lot of movement there, so I'm wondering if you can help me, being that you do pay the police department.
But again, we can't report crimes.
Is
The
that
police
yes or
department
no?
has to report crimes.
That's a crime, ma'am. Stealing property is a crime.
Stealing property is a crime, but this board can't prosecute anybody for stealing property.
Not
There
asking
can
you
be
to
filed
prosecute.
charges.
I'm asking for your support. Do I have it?
In letting you file a report with the police, absolutely, you're more than welcome to file a report with the police.
Okay, now, this couldn't have been done without cooperation.
I have no idea. I have no
Well, I'm
idea
letting
how
you know.
something like that would happen. There would have to be an investigation that the police would have to do.
That's okay, I've done it myself. And unfortunately, it does involve one of our vets. I hate to say.
Okay, but again, if there's a crime that's been committed and you know who committed the crime, you need to go to the police department to be able to.
That's fine. Yep, I haven't gotten any movement there, as I said.
Okay.
So
that was-
how would I get around that?
Well, the police department's the only person who can file anything unless you choose to, I don't know if you can go to the county, to
The county court.
to the county courts, to the prosecutor's office. I don't know if you can do that, supersede Hopakon and go there. I don't know if that's it.
I'm hitting a lot of roadblocks.
Well, again, that was 5 minutes, so we have to see if anybody else wants to speak.
I'm sorry.
Nope.
That young lady spoke about like 10 minutes about her dad.
We've been setting a timer
Okay,
for everybody. I'm sorry. There's just a lot of people here
Now, if
tonight.
my house is in jeopardy, even though I've vastly overpaid for it, there's no support from the town.
The town with the resources and with the departments that we have, we support you 100% in anything that we possibly
Because all
can.
the equity's been drained out of my property. You know how that got done?
I don't know how
That got done by the tax assessor,
Okay, I
raising
don't know
my
how that got
property
done, but at this
evaluation
point-
every
okay.
time my
Nadine,
father-in-law
I don't know
wanted
how
to
that got
take
done,
out
but
a
at this point
loan.
in time, we're.
And then my valuation would crash.
Nadine.
And then when he wanted more
Nadine,
money,
we
they'd
have
raise the
to stop
value.
here. We have to stop here.
And then it would crash.
Okay, we have to stop here. I need you to
This
sit
has
back
put
down so
my
someone
health
else
in
can
risk
speak.
because my benefits have also been
Nadine,
ruined
I
by
need you to
this.
sit down. I'm asking you very kindly. Please sit down so other people can speak and we can finish with our meeting.
All right,
There's another public portion if you want to talk at the end. The real estate committee has offered to help you with everything that you can. This board has not been able to help you with what you're asking for, and I apologize for that. But again, we are in a public meeting. There are other people here, and I need to move on. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything? Not seeing anything. Motion to bring it back?
Oh,
Motion.
Lisa, do you-
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's okay. Hi, I'm Lisa.
I watched the budget meeting and I'm just trying to get some clarity because I was at the understanding that part of the 1.8 that he was discussing earlier had to do with a grant that was awarded the town but wasn't filed for. And then in that was part of the shortfall, I guess, that we're trying to make up for. I don't really understand the other items that bring us to the 8.9 increase, if that's what we're proposing in our taxes. My question was, is it the grant that wasn't gotten? Is that part of it? And if it is, what portion of that is?
So what it is, I'm sorry, Lisa. So what it is it's a process that we go through when we collect grants, we apply for them, we pay out some money, we get the service done, then we apply to get the money back. Just for instance, that 1.8, I think it's $795,000 of it is actually already accumulated and set aside for the carbon filtration systems.
So
We haven't gotten billed yet, so we haven't paid it out yet. So that's one of those types of things. So there's a couple of those things that are in there. Some of them are smaller, some of them, but we just started working on that.
Okay.
So there isn't necessarily there isn't a $1.8 million grant that we received that we haven't done anything
I
with
figured
yet.
that it was a portion of
Yeah.
the 1.8. So my question to you was if unilaterally you're raising taxes on everybody, what about those of us that have a well? We're not on the municipal system.
Oh, no, and that has nothing to do with it, because the grant is only awarded to the people who are using the carbon filtration system. Not everybody is using that.
Right, but I'm just saying if that's part of the tax increase.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Okay.
It's not part of the tax free spin at all.
Okay, good.
One doesn't.
I didn't understand that from watching the meeting, honestly. I watched it and
Well,
it wasn't clear.
You know, honestly, that work session is really just for the council to kind of talk about things,
Yeah.
iron out things, and then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that happens behind the scenes
Yeah.
after that. Not behind the scenes, but where the CFO starts working on what the requests were and what people were looking for, and then the auditor gets involved. So there's a
Okay.
lot that happens.
I
in
get that
between.
it's a process.
And that doesn't happen
I
all
was
at
just
the
like, wait a
meeting.
second, I'm on a well. I'm not paying for everybody's
Yes.
municipal. Okay, so good. That's not an issue. All right, so my other question is, so I get that we have to make up for some difference. I'm not clear on what those are. I would like to be more clear on that. And I don't know if there's if this is the meeting where we're clear, we get those questions answered, or if there's another meeting or another time where we can understand that better as to why this is necessary. But I also would like some answers about that. And I would like to know if there's a way that we could find some other solutions besides putting the burden on the taxpayers. I'm about staying in the solutions, right? I don't really care who's to blame. I don't really care how we got here. I want to know how we can fix it. Okay, so I had a couple of ideas. I could be completely off base.
Let's hear them.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay, I know we have a fund balance. I know that it may be exhausted. I don't know if there's any portion of that can be borrowed against or taken out, the fund balance. I was hearing that some of that has already been spent. I don't know, we have to keep a certain amount in there. I
Yes.
understand that. but is that a resource? And is that how we got from 10 to 8 tonight? I'm just one thing. Also, I was wondering if there's a way, if we, instead of slapping us with, since we just got hit with 9.9, and I know the school board is separate, but we're gonna get hit with another 5 there, and then we're gonna get hit with another 8.9. It's kind of unsustainable for some people. I, as a local realtor, have gotten a few calls this past week, and I don't know what to tell people, okay? Because now they want to sell their homes, they're freaking out, they've already gotten hit. I'm, you know, I don't want to sell homes and then not tell people, well, yeah, your taxes are good. You know what I'm saying? I live in the town. I have to meet people in the grocery store. So I want to be clear on what exactly that means for household. How is that going to be divvied up? Obviously, us lakefront people, we typically pay the most. And that seems to be unfair to me, to be honest, because we're always hit the most.
Okay, we're about 15 seconds before 5
Okay,
minutes.
so my other question was, is there a way to take out a low interest loan and pay it back over 20 years as opposed to slapping us with, okay? Is there a way to go to our Congress people? Can we please petition somebody at the state level and ask them if they could help us find other grants or do other things to offset some of the things? And lastly, as a realtor, I know that you got rid of the fire department. Where do I go for smoke certs? For
Our smoke services are still available and have been available.
here?
It's
I
always
was
been
told I had to go to the county. It's no longer,
But you're calling the county.
no, I always called Frank.
Yeah, so.
I called the fire
So
department.
it's actually gonna be on the agenda tonight. So we've, been working with the county. They're going, well, they've already assumed, taking over that process.
Right.
So you would call, the county sheriff, his name is Virgil Rome.
Okay.
He's being appointed as temporary fire marshal tonight because we are waiting for our shared service with the county to be finalized. So for now, he's been doing it for us. So he's who you call.
County sheriff and.
Oh, no, not the sheriff.
No.
Virgil.
Virgil Rome.
Virgil Rome, the,
He's in the sheriff's office, sorry.
yes, he's in the sheriff's.
Yeah.
He's not the
He sits in
sheriff.
the sheriff's office,
Yeah.
but he's the fire marshal.
I had
It's
a
on our
couple other
website now.
solutions, but I think my time is up
Yes,
regarding
yeah.
what I said before. So if anybody can
Yes,
maybe.
thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing anything, motion to bring it back?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, I would like to, if it's possible, I would like to ask that we move the introduction of the ordinance for 3-2025 to where we are now so that we can ask our auditor to do his presentation and not have him sit here through the rest of the meeting unless, of course, you want him to stay.
No, but while we're moving things, can we also move the bills list to after the resolutions? Being that can we just move the bills list after the resolutions going forward?
Yeah, let's do that.
Seems good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which one are we moving?
We're doing the introduction of 3-2025 so that we can 2025, so I'm sorry, 2025.
Why are we doing 3-2025? That's just exceeding the appropriation limit?
Oh, do you want to move up the introduction of 2025?
I wanted to move the introduction of the budget up.
So new
Like,
business.
just so that we can ask if there's questions that have to be asked of Ray while he's here, while the auditor's here. If not, we can keep them separate. It's up to you.
So we're doing the new business. We're moving the new business.
New business A.
There's no ordinance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on,
Pay no attention to me.
you have to do the ordinance before you introduce the budget.
Yes.
If you want to move the introduction of the budget up to now, you have to move the ordinance up to now. Then the
First.
introduction of the budget.
That's fine.
Okay.
So 1 and 2, all right.
Yep.
So can I have a motion to introduce ordinance 3-2025 authorization to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits?
I'll motion.
Second.
And can I have a roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kusivic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. And can I ask that we move new business A, the introduction of the 2025 municipal budget?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Our auditor, Ray Sarinelli from Miss Abaccia, is next.
I usually stand over here. Okay, good evening, everybody. Ray Sarinelli, Township, Borough Auditor, sorry, forgot where I was for a second. So tonight, you'll be, introducing the budget. And so what you have before you is a budget that is statutorily compliant. So there's two cap laws that you have to comply with. One is the, levy cap and one is the appropriation cap. The budget is compliant with both of those caps. The budget calls for an 8.5% increase in the tax levy. So to the average taxpayer, what does that mean? So the average taxpayer, if the person with a household of $380,000, the tax increase to that person would be $180 for the entire year. So that kind of puts things in perspective. Some of the drivers of the tax increase, we spend a lot of time talking about fund balance. It's your financial indicator of how well the town is doing. There has been a pretty drastic reduction in the fund balance in 2024. So in order to try and stabilize the fund balance, we're using much, much less of it to help balance the budget. So still using a portion of it, just not as much as we used in the prior year. And when you have a balanced budget, if you're reducing one of your revenues, either one of your expenses has to be reduced or one of your revenues has to be increased. In this case, a tax increase. So that's kind of the main driver. Obviously, there's inflationary pressure that's on the town to deal with. One of the bigger long-term changes that's being implemented in this budget is a shift from utilizing only short-term debt to a capital long-term debt plan that at some point will include probably a long-term bond. That reduction is helping to reduce the tax burden this year, but as we move into the future and you need to meet the demands of that bond, there will be tax increases necessary to meet that pay down, hopefully spreading a large cost over a period of time instead of a similar situation to this where there's a large tax increase in one time. So that's the budget. There are two separate budgets for each utility. Those are billed only to users of those services, so the water utility and sewer utility. They have very balanced budgets. Their rates are structured so that right now they are very balanced where pretty much what you are making, you're spending. So that's a good thing. Those budgets are balanced. Their financial position is fairly strong. So that's everything that's incorporated into your budget for this year. Is there anything further you would like me to discuss?
Does anybody have any questions? Steve?
I can't ask you my normal question that I would ask you. How long can we go at 0% until we're hit with something like this? Because I asked this the last 4 years that you presented a budget like this, and I guess we got our answer. So, thank you.
Where didn't, maybe we should be able to say where most of the increase came from, why we had to use so much fund balance.
Yes.
Why you have to use so much fund
Right.
balance?
Last year,
In the
in 2024?
No, yeah, in 2024.
Well, we can roll back the tape of the work session.
8.5.
Yes.
Percent, yes.
So what is the question, why did we use so much fund balance last year?
Yeah,
So
I think that's what the people want to know. Why are we at this point? Not from the past, but why did we use so much money in 24 that we have to have more money in 25?
That's a great question.
I don't know if we can answer that.
Can we ask that?
I don't know if you can answer that.
You know, so the budget obviously needs to be balanced and there are a finite amount of revenues that go into a municipal budget, the largest being taxes. So in order to try and produce a balanced budget, 2.5 million of fund balance usage was determined to be the level at which you could use. partly to keep taxes low, but also because your fund balance in particular was high in prior years, right? So I always go by what a rating agency would suggest for a town of your size. That would be 20 to 25%. We've discussed that. Your fund balance was probably closer to between 30 and 35%. So there is, you know, the idea that you want to draw down on your fund balance when it starts to get too high. So that's why that number was used in 2024. I don't think at that time the dramatic, so there was a $1.1 million reduction in fund balance in 2024. And I don't think it was known at that time that it would be that dramatic of an increase or a decrease, I'm sorry. So
Well, that's what I think, what the concern is from people calling me and talking to me is, was there any specific area? You know, what was it fuel? Was it, what were the increases in general? In categories per se, or was it all across the board? I mean, is it inflation? Is it all of those things?
Inflation is a big part of it.
I know our medical insurance for our employees went way up. That's a thing. I mean, those kind of things are, I think, what the people need to know. I mean, that's happening in their lives as well as.
Right.
The town's
Inflation is affecting everybody, including this municipality, right? 'Cause
Correct.
things cost more money. So I mean, that's a huge part of it. Healthcare.
I think you gave me 19 to 21% was inflation.
So
19
in
to
the last 4
21%.
years, if you ask what the inflation was per year, it's 19%, right?
And I think you said it was the low teens, the high 20s that the health insurance went up.
20% last year, 16% this year.
And the
So I think that's. what
pension
people
costs
want to know.
dramatically rose within the last 3 years, last year being the largest increase out of the 3 years.
It's hard to,
Those are the three major
It's hard to
ones.
pinpoint, I get that, but I think in general, people want to know why we're going to I mean, they understand the mechanics of it, but they want to know, are we doing everything? And I want to promise you, we are doing everything we can to keep prices down or your taxes down, but we're also, we're gonna do park work, and we're gonna do paving, we're gonna do all these good things, so.
right, so yes, this budget does include a good capital program. And it really, I'll say it is a much better balanced budget than last year. I don't know that last year's budget fully contemplated the expenses side of the budget. So there are some things that we're trying to make up for in this budget, because last year's appropriation side wasn't quite enough to be a balanced budget.
Okay, I think that's really what people want to know.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's okay.
Thank you.
Don't stress out. I forgot. No, I didn't say anything. Yeah.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Joe or Steve?
Joe or
No.
Steve, do you?
Nope, none for me. Thank you.
Joe fell asleep.
Do we want to talk about the audit now, or let's finish this process? And then I know you're trying to get me out of here, Mayor. I appreciate that. And then we'll talk about the audit.
We're his favorite town. What do you want to do?
They're figuring it out.
So you want me to make the motion for them to accept it before we do the audit?
I would think it would be the best to, yes, finish this thought on the budget. So you would need a motion on the resolution to introduce the 2025
Okay.
budget.
Can I have a motion for the introduction of the 2025 municipal budget
Motion. Second.
and a roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Falcone.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Moving along to the audit.
What is this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Is the audit on the agenda?
No.
Oh, okay.
saving me an extra trip.
Okay. They're gonna miss us, right?
You're going somewhere.
Grace Arnelli, Township Auditor. Borough Auditor.
Borough.
Sorry, everybody, sorry. So I'll preface this with, I'm going to present to you a draft of the audit tonight. I appreciate you saving me a trip. I won't have to come back to present the audit once it's finalized. What you have in front of you and what I present to you tonight will not change between the draft and the finalization. Really, all that's missing is my signature on the audit, which just couldn't get completed in time for me to present tonight. But nothing will change, so we're gonna go through it tonight. You won't be accepting the audit tonight. You won't be doing the group affidavit. Those are all things that you normally do when I present. That will be done at your next meeting. But I'm gonna present so that you guys all have an understanding of the financial statements and the recommendations. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do tonight. So I prepared in front of you a packet of some select financial statements. And, you know, most of them are balance sheets. There's some statements of income statements. So the first page up is your current operating fund balance sheet. And you know, there's a lot of information that goes into the audit. It's 160 pages. As you can see, you don't have 160 pages in front of you. What I'm going to try and do is just give you some of the financial highlights. So I'm going to go through some of the numbers on this page that I think are very important to you, so you can understand the financial picture of where the borough was at. So I'm actually going to flip to the second page and talk about fund balance. So we just talked about fund balance and its usage in the budget. So we know, as I had presented to you, that the fund balance took a pretty steep decline in 2024. So if you go about 3/4 of the way down, you started the year with $6,465,000 in fund balance and ended the year with $5,395,606 in fund balance. So roughly a $1.1 million decrease. So fund balance gets used to the budget. As we know, you're utilizing it as a revenue, but it also gets regenerated during the year. So the way that fund balance gets regenerated is by collecting revenues in excess of what they are budgeted for, or when an appropriation goes unspent. So in this year in particular, we used a little bit too much fund balance and couldn't regenerate. As I said, when last year's budget was put together, we kind of knew that was going to happen. I believe I said to you, fund balance has peaked in 2023. In 2024, it's most likely going to be reduced. So one of the reasons that it was reduced actually is if you flip back to the prior page, you'll see at the top of the page, delinquent property taxes receivable. You'll see 959,000 is receivable at the end of 24. Over 692,000 is receivable at the end of 23. So what does that mean? You did not collect as much taxes in 24 as you did in 23. So when I started, I spoke about, you know, revenues exceeding their budgeted amounts. If you are not collecting as much taxes, you don't have as much revenue exceeding the budgeted amount. So there's a little bit of a decrease in the fund balance. This was almost exactly offset by a separate revenue, which was interest on investments. You have money in bank accounts, you earn interest on those bank accounts. Interest rates, as everybody knows, is very high. So based on what you budgeted, your revenue collection over what you budgeted was very strong. It was almost 250,000 more than what was budgeted. So you have a little bit of a wash there on your revenue side. So something a little bit bad happened in your tax collection, something good happened in your interest on investments. Another reason why fund balance declined so sharply is because, as I said, unspent appropriations coming back into the budget are a reason why fund balance grows. So as inflation affects us, expenses get higher, over the past several years, the budget has gotten tighter and tighter, trying to keep taxes low. Less and less money has been coming back into the fund balance from unspent proceeds. So a very big reason on why some of the fund balance did not come back as strongly is because you had less what's called lapsing appropriations, where funds are spent less than what was budgeted for. So another reason. The last reason that the fund balance really isn't quite as strong in 2024. There was a lot of interfund activity, and New Jersey municipal accounting is a very conservative form of accounting. So if you have a receivable, it has to be offset with a reserve. So if you have an interfund receivable, even though you owe that money to yourself, you have to hold a reserve for that. So that basically means you're taking part of your fund balance and setting it aside until you collect that receivable. So what is that doing? It's restricting your fund balance. So the fund balance came down a little bit. You had almost $300,000 in interfunds receivable from other funds owed to the current fund. This is gonna lower your fund balance. So overall, right, financially from the current fund, you wouldn't want to see that dramatic of a decrease in a single year. We knew fund balance was going to come down in 2024. It just came down pretty dramatically. So as we talked about through the introduction of the budget, by reducing the amount of fund balance we're relying on, we're trying to stabilize the decrease in the fund balance and try and get it in the 20 to 25% of your operations fees. Right now you're at 20, you were pretty high, somewhere between 30 and 35%. Right now, the fund balance is 28% of your operational funds. So we're gonna draw it down probably a little bit more through the 25 budget and hopefully have it be stabilized in the 20 to 25% range. That's what's going on in current fund. Any questions there?
Yeah, I believe land sales in 24 were less. So that
That's very, very good. I forgot.
That's here
Yes,
too, right?
thank you. So land sales, there was a particularly large land sale in 23 that really helped save the fund. The fund balance would have decreased in 2023 as well. However, there was a $500,000 land sale in 2023 that helped to stabilize the budget in that year. There were no land sales in 2024. Obviously, we're going to have some in 2025. That's helpful. I don't think there's anything that large out there still where you're going to sell something for 500,000. So selling some land sales obviously is going to be helpful in 2025. Off to a good start tonight. See if there's more land sales to come. Hopefully that's helps to stabilize the fund balance in 25. But yes, another reason, thank you for reminding me, that the not quite as a robust fund balance in 2024. Thank you. So that's the first 3 pages. Those are the A schedules in the current fund. The B schedules are your trusts. Trusts are funds that are held for a specific purpose, right? So the recreation has a trust, open space has a trust. These are funds either collected from outside sources, put into a trust, and held to be spent for a specific reason. Most of them operated normally throughout the year, which is a good thing. The storm recovery trust, we'll touch on this, but the storm recovery trust was a little bit overly relied on in 2024. So that part of the reason we talk about the budget and what some of the increases are is we have to bring some of those expenses that were being charged to that emergency trust back into the budget to try and make sure that what we're spending operationally is in the operating budget. Any questions on trust? Next up is your capital schedules. So the capital fund is responsible for holding your debt and making capital type purchases. Pretty normal operation of the capital fund in 2024. The debt was, paid down according to the note schedule. There were several projects entered into, very normal operation. We're going to continue to operate that. We touched a little bit about that the long-term debt capital plan structure is a little bit changed, but overall normal operations in 2024. questions on capital? So in your water utility, we'll actually go to page 2 of 2. We'll talk a little bit about the fund balance there. So the utilities have their own operating and capital funds. The water utility fund balance actually grew a little bit in 2024. So at the start of the year, it was $525,000 and it grew to $581,000. So this is a pretty good sustainable rate structure for the water utility. The fund balance is up slightly, meaning that your revenues are strong and they're meeting the demand of your appropriations. That's a very good thing. The fund balance is pretty strong here as well. So I would say the rate structure for the time being looks very good. It's a very balanced rate structure. We'll see how that is affected by inflation, right? So many towns, not just Hopatcong, are experiencing intense pressure on the capital needs of their utilities, right? Everybody knows lead pipes are being constantly, PFAS is a big issue. Unfortunately, these issues are not remedied with $100,000 fix. They're usually like $2 to $3 million fix. So, having a strong fund balance will give you some time to adjust to any unforeseen expenses that may come up. So that's good. Current rate structure in good shape, good balanced budget. Any questions on the water utility? Water utility is in a very similar place as the water utility. So if you go to schedule E202, you'll see the fund balance at the start of the year was $2,320,000, and at the end of the year, $2,340,000. So very, very, very small growth there, $2,000 or $20,000, excuse me. So again, good rate structure, good balanced budget, very strong fund balance, same thing. Fixes in the sewer utility are not cheap. So if something goes wrong, it's not $100,000 fix. We're prepared for that if need be because the fund balance is in a strong place, good balance, rate structure, good budget, financially in a good place. Any questions on that? So those are all the funds and a fairly brief summary. All right, that's a little long sometimes, a lot of numbers, of your financial statement. Those are the financial statements. The audit part of the audit is where we make sure that the operation is operating appropriately. We have checks and we do a lot of checks to make sure things are being reported accurately. We also have statutory requirements that require us to do additional testing to make sure things are being done properly. Unfortunately, with some turnover in the CFO position, things went a little bit awry in 2024. So there are 15 recommendations in the audit. So when I say a recommendation, I mean essentially means that we found that either statutorily or reporting wise, some policies and procedures weren't being followed correctly. And so what we do is we recommend a way to fix that. Doesn't mean that the financial statements are wrong. It just means that the process in which finances were done wasn't happening properly. And we need to make sure that that gets corrected so that in the future, everything is operating the way it should. So I'll start from the beginning. The first recommendation that we have is that adequate segregation of duties be maintained with respect to the recording and treasury functions. I would say that recommendation appears in probably 90% of our municipalities. We take a very strict look at the standards and how they are applied. So the standards say that you have to have a segregation of duties between your receiving functions, your recording functions, and your bank reconciliation functions. So essentially that would mean you need to hire 3 separate people to do those jobs when they can be done by one in a municipality this size. So the only way to fix it is to hire people and spend money that you don't need to spend. The standards are applied to Hopatcon Borough the same way they're applied to a company like Apple or Google, or even Sandy Stin, or these small towns. So it would be incredibly difficult to remedy this recommendation. So even though you can't fix it, I need you to know that it's not really operating optimally in there, so that you keep an extra set of eyes on the way things operate. I'm not saying anything wrong happened, I'm just saying you keep an eye on it because it's not perfect. So that's the purpose of that. Don't feel like I'm singling out Hopatcon Borough. It pretty much appears in almost every audit that we write. Again, very strict interpretation of the standards from us, why it's done that way. So the next is the borough recommendation is that the borough continue to maintain a fixed asset accounting and reporting system. There is a technical bulletin, I believe it was released in 1987, says that the borough needs to maintain a fixed asset reporting system that's usually updated each year by the CFO. Some turnover in that position during the year. Unfortunately, the records weren't updated. We were able to come in, look through your records, make sure that the information was recorded properly in the financial statements. But right, this is a recommendation to make sure that something is fixed for the future. So we need to ensure that either the company or that internally, you're tracking the fixed assets purchases that are done throughout the borough. If you have questions as I'm going through any of these, please feel free to ask. So the third recommendation is recommended that all receipts be properly deposited into the correct accounts within 48 hours of receipt as per state statute, and adequate backup be maintained, as well as receipts being issued when revenue is collected. So a new bank account was opened, several new bank accounts were opened during 2024, and with those new bank accounts, receipt scanners were implemented with those bank accounts. So you can basically mobile deposit, right? Everybody's familiar with mobile deposit. You scan the check, it goes directly into the bank. The problem is when that was done, a new policy and procedure was not implemented. So, checks were being scanned and deposited. They weren't going into the correct accounts. Sometimes it wasn't happening within 48 hours, which is a state law. And unfortunately, nobody was reconciling the accounts to make sure things were happening properly. So pretty serious issue there that through the receipting process, things weren't happening properly. I have a high level of comfort that all receipts made it into the bank where they were supposed to. But when you have a process that's happening in an incorrect way, that needs to be fixed, especially something as important as that. To tie into that, the next recommendation is accurate and timely bank reconciliations be maintained, and that the borough monitor its bank accounts to ensure accounts are not overdrawn. So during the year, I don't know that it's statutorily required, but your policies and procedures state you should have monthly bank reconciliations. The monthly bank reconciliations ensure that all the accounts are reconciled so that, something's missing, something goes awry, we can't find something, receipts aren't being deposited into the correct accounts. That those issues are documented right away instead of at year end. So I know there were steps to try and mitigate this issue towards the end of the year. Bank reconciliations were completed before the end of the year. We did have auditable bank reconciliations, but throughout the year, the reconciliations were not happening, and some of these issues with the receipting weren't detected until later in the year. So those two recommendations really kind of go together hand in hand. If one was happening, if one of those issues was corrected during the year, I think the other one would have been corrected too. So as we move into 2025, we have a new CFO, we have a new administration, we're going to continue to try and make sure that those things get corrected. Any questions on either of those two issues? The next recommendation, it is recommended that the sewer utility assessment trust fund trial balance and general ledger be maintained. So a trust assessment has been ongoing really for the past 6 to 8 years, I want to say, that assessment was confirmed, I believe, in 2022. Last year, or in 2023, it was not billed. In 2024, the assessment was billed correctly. So that's all happening correctly. However, the underlying accounting records are not being maintained in the general ledger system. They're kind of being absorbed into the sewer utility operating. That's not how that's supposed to, that's not how that is supposed to operate. So we need to make sure that the accounting software, the accounting records are updated to create this new fund. The trust assessment creates a new fund, and that needs to happen properly in 2025. So still happening, just not happening the right way. Recommendation number 6, that prior year journal entries are posted. So it's very important when we do an audit, we're presenting your financial statements. So we're taking your underlying accounting records, compiling them into a set of financial statements, and then offering an opinion on them. As we go through your records, if we notice that something doesn't look correct, mistakes happen, something gets deposited in the wrong fund, we need to make sure that's corrected. It's corrected through a journal entry. Those journal entries aren't recorded. Your underlying accounting records aren't really reflective of what your financial statements actually are. So if, for instance, somebody is trying to, most likely you is just trying to determine, oh, I want to know what the fund balance is as of June 30th. If the prior year journal entries haven't been recorded properly, your fund balance isn't properly stated as of June 30th. So in order to get the financial records and the financial statements into cohesion, I don't know if that's a word, the journal entries need to be posted. So a very important step in the financial records. So recommendation number 7 is recommended that donations made to the borough for public events and any receipts of revenue associated with them be properly recorded or adequate backup maintained. So the borough is in the business of providing government services. And unfortunately, that means that fundraising is not one of those services. It's a very good intention, but not really the purpose of government. So when we have fundraising happening, doesn't mean that you can't fundraise. It just means that you can fundraise outside of the borough and make a donation back to the borough. That's fine. But running a foundation or a fundraiser through borough accounting records really isn't the purpose of the borough. So we want to follow the proper policies and procedures, have fundraisers be fundraisers. If donations would like to be made to the borough, that can happen. But I know that there's always good intentions, but we want to keep the government running for government purposes only. Recommendation number 8, the borough make every effort to ensure that there are no over expenditures of appropriations in the current fund. So we touched a little bit on this during the budget process, but the 2024 budget wasn't quite adequate to support some of the payroll expenses that were done throughout the year. And so when you have a budget that is not adequate, it gets overexpended. That's a mistake that happens, but it needs to be corrected. So you can't have an over expenditure and not have a recommendation to ensure that you don't overexpend funds in the future.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
So for the over expenditures, so when we overexpend, we have to replace that the following year, correct?
So what happens is, it's really twofold, yes. So you've overexpended the fund, which means you didn't raise that money through the budget, whether that be revenue or taxation, to pay for those funds. The only way that you pay something is that you raise it through the budget. So you paid something that you didn't raise, has to be raised in the subsequent year. So that is being raised in the 2025 budget. So you need to, first of all, pay for last year.
Right.
But then also last year's budget was not adequate. So you need to ensure that this year's budget is adequate for those expenses too. So it's almost like
You're paying for it twice.
you're paying for it twice.
Got
So
it.
we did correct for that.
You did.
You corrected for it in this
25
budget,
Budget,
right,
right?
in this
I
budget.
cannot allow
correct.
you to adopt a budget that doesn't correct for that. Yep.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Well, oh, yes, that's why I said statutorily. we have to do
Yep.
it, Right.
Yep. Any other questions? We're good. Yeah. Expenditures. Okay, next up, it is recommended that the borough ensure all tax payments made by third-party administrators are reviewed and certified. So the way that your payroll function operates is that a third party withdraws the funds from your bank account and makes sure that payments are made on your behalf. So they pay, not only pay your payroll, they also make the contributions to the pension fund, to taxes, federal taxes, any other withholdings, if there's payments to deferred compensation plans, things like that. What happens is that third party makes those payments on your behalf. Somebody from the borough should ensure that those payments are indeed being made, because on the off chance that the company does not decide to pay them, you would be liable for them because they are still your payments. So there is no indication that those payments were not made, but nobody here verified that. So we need to make sure moving forward that all of those payments are verified to be made. Questions? Keep going. Recommendation 10, it is recommended that P cards only be used to make authorized and allowable purchases, and all policies and procedures be followed. So P cards are very similar to credit cards, which is very important, right? There is a, I'll call it a slow process when spending government funds. It is purposefully slow so that there's checks and balances over every single purchase. When utilizing a P card, there is a very specific set of policies and procedures that need to be followed in order to ensure that, I'll call them mitigating control. So you're not following these policies and procedures, you need to follow other policies and procedures to make sure that those processes are still being followed. Weren't 100% followed in 2024. Personally, even though they're statutory allowable P cards, I don't recommend using them. I feel that the level of control over them is always degraded from what the normal process is. If you choose to use them going forward, you need to ensure that all policies and procedures are strictly followed. Next recommendation, all purchase orders be approved prior to the order of goods and services. Goes back to that slow process. A request needs to be made and approved by somebody before those goods and services can be purchased. If an invoice is done, it means that person went out, they didn't purchase it, the money wasn't spent, but it essentially means that they made the purchase and they're going back and going through the process of making sure that the money is there and that the purchase can be made. It needs to happen the other way. They need to request to have the purchase made, then go get an invoice. It slows everything down. It's not efficient. That's a good thing. You're spending other people's money. You're spending taxpayer money. We need that process to be slow and full of intention. So we need to make sure that that process is followed. Recommendation number 12, a cash book to be maintained and that members of the recreation department adhere to the borough policies. You know, things got a little bit awry, you know, when they're in the transition through CFOs and interim CFO. I think some wires got crossed in the recreation department and, you know, cash book wasn't maintained for a portion of the year. Some of the policies and procedures weren't exactly being followed 100% during the year. So we need to make sure that as we get back to, you know, having a full-time CFO, having, you know, a full-time administrator, no turnover, hopefully in those positions, we make sure that the procedures, the policies are all being followed so that, you know, accurate records are maintained. Very similar issue is recommendation 13, the animal control department adhere to the borough's policies and procedures regarding the collection of fees. Same idea, we want to make sure all the policies and procedures are followed. We have accurate records. You know, the policies and procedures are, again, there's an intention there. We want to make sure they're followed, make sure our records are done correctly, and transparent. Number 14, we talked about a little bit about this tonight. The federal and state grants receivable be reviewed to identify which grants will be collected and which grants can be canceled. We're going to work through that, I think later this year to try and prepare an analysis for everybody to see which grants can be collected, which grants can be canceled. You know, I've done a preliminary review of the grants. I think we can get through this reconciliation process without having it have to be a burden on the taxpayers. Hopefully, we can collect what we're owed, but we will have to perform an analysis to see where things go on that issue. Any further questions on that? Because it's come up a few times.
I have a question, but I don't know if I can ask it. Okay.
Send an email tomorrow to Ray.
Or if you can, write out the question. While
Yeah.
Ray continues talking, give it to Shelby and then Shelby. can-
Okay, last one. We're almost done.
Notes in class.
Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Final recommendation, a continuing effort be made to limit the amount of interfund balances at year end. As we talked about, there was a lot of interfund balances. Those interfund balances can restrict your fund balance. Just not a good financial practice to have money that belongs in one fund in another fund. So we need to get that remedy. I think having monthly bank reconciliations, having oversight over your receiving process will help clear those interfunds. So a lot of these are intertwined. I think as we continue to move through the year and remedy some of these things, some of them will just automatically be remedied through that process.
So it seems a number of these were somewhat a result of the transition of CFOs during the course of the year. I think, Shelby, correct me if I'm wrong, but or Judy, I think a number of them are in process of being
Right.
corrected already.
Right.
And I don't see anything on there that we shouldn't be able to correct relatively quickly for anything that's remaining, right? I didn't see any.
These are
really
all
big
these are all issues that I've seen before in other places, maybe not all at the same time. But all things that, yes, certainly can be addressed, can be fixed, seen them be fixed.
So with a bit of oversight and discipline, we'll be able to get that all in line for this year.
I would think so.
That was kind of my question too, is how can we as a council avoid this happening again? And could we have known about this before the audit was done to have prevented it? And how do we prevent it going forward? Just by changing these things,
So, yeah, I think, having a high level of oversight, right, in that department and ensuring that they are ensuring they're enforcing the policies and procedures across the board on everyone. I mean, I think the number one thing that you could do is have have the CFO present monthly bank reconciliations to the council. And then that the bank reconciliations are being done.
Okay.
I would say that's of all things, that's where everything else is stemming from.
so moving forward, we're gonna rely on Shelby and Judy for these things.
We're very happy to have Shelby. and
Absolutely,
Judy.
100%, but that's where this is, that's where that
And I do want
oversight.
to be clear that some of these have already been addressed.
Yes, the
Sorry.
oversight, I mean, that's where these
Well,
recommendations.
From your level, yes.
Thank you.
So, yes, at your level, yes, as Sophie said, yes, there's a lot of it has been addressed. I want to say, when I had my initial meeting of my initial draft and I went through these things, neither of them were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that was, they knew, and they were trying to implement a process to try and correct those things. A lot of times, an administration can start to address things until the bad guy comes along and tells them, hey, listen, this stuff needs to happen, then it really starts the process to really get things corrected a little bit quicker.
Thank you.
I can ask my question. So because a lot of the people here tonight want to know about the $1.8 million. So again, that's multiple grants, just to reiterate, that was not just one grant, it's a ton of them. So any grants for the completed projects of that $1.8 million, if we don't submit the receipts for reimbursement, where is that money coming from? So who's paying for those projects?
Okay. Grant funds are probably one of the more complicated portions. of municipal finance. So some of the grant funds are outstanding,
Mhm.
but they haven't been spent and they have an offsetting receivable. That $1.8 million is what is receivable of grant funds. There's still money offsetting those receivables. So a large portion of, let's say you got a grant for $100,000. You spent 50 of it, but you may have collected 50 of it. So there still could be $50,000 out there that's part of that 1.8, which looks bad. But when you cancel what has been unspent, you cancel that against the 50 that's receivable, and you're fine. The problem is when you spend 100, but that 50 is still out there as receivable. You spent the money, there's nothing to cancel. So what you need to do is either pursue collection on that. If you cannot collect, you would have to raise it in the budget. It's what's called a deferred charge.
Right.
Very similar to what the over expenditure was. Very similar to what the over expenditure was, right? The only way you can spend money is if you raise it in the budget. Well, you spent it and didn't collect it. We have to raise it in the budget so that we can cover what was spent. Why, the way I say, I think we can resolve things, I think a majority of what is unspent can be canceled against what is receivable. I know it's not gonna work out perfectly, so I have to spend some time and look at it and see what we can do to try and make the best choice in either pursuing collection or funding some of those issues.
Well, I think some of the concern, to some people is the fact that they see the $1.9 million number, whatever it happens to be, and it's, you know, the assumption is made the money was spent and we never collected the money.
Right.
That's not really the reality of it.
And I'll say, so the biggest piece of it, right, is there's an $800,000 grant for
PFAS.
Appropriation for PFAS, yeah.
So that is a federal grant. Federal grants you have to spend before you collect. So that money was just spent in 2024. I'm very confident that you're gonna get that money. Am I 100% confident? No, because there's a little bit of craziness going on. in the federal government, right?
Oh, right.
And what they're saying about what money is gonna go where. But I'm very confident you just spent that money. You will more than likely get it. I'm more concerned that there are some older grants out there, much smaller numbers that haven't been collected. We can still pursue collection on them, and we can still try and balance out canceling whatever portion is left against what is receivable. I'm pretty hopeful that it can be resolved, hopefully without having to create a deferred charge situation that you have to.
Right. And just to be clear, it's not for the public that's listening, because I know we're talking a lot about, this is the 2024 audit, but that 1.8 for the funding was in the 2023 audit. So if you don't see it current, it's because it was from a prior year audit. That's why. Okay, I didn't have any other questions.
Anyone else have questions? Joe, Steve?
No, I'm good.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ray. It was very informative. We appreciate the information and the explanation.
So if anybody in the public has any questions during public comment, are you saying you're leaving or packing, just so we know who has to answer questions?
I think, Judy and I can handle.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so.
I think we know that. If you know this.
Thank you.
Sorry, Ray.
If there anything comes up, just write it down.
Yeah.
And we-
Perfect.
Okay, moving along. We are back at 11, approval of minutes, approval of the April 2nd, 2025 regular minutes.
And this is amended, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
And the roll call.
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Falcone.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Moving on to correspondence, I had just sent an email to the council in reference to reevaluation of council committees. That doesn't have to be acted on, that just is for everybody to have the same information at the same time. We moved the resolution 2025-70 bill list, so we're not going to do that just yet. Moving on to resolutions 2025-71, authorization for a refund for a tax overpayment.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you,
Good
Ray.
night,
Thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
And the roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Yeah.
Mr. Falcone.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Can we come back to her? She's getting water.
Oh.
Or she'll.
Run to the bathroom.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you have enough to pass it?
Should, yes.
You do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, moving on, 2025-72, authorization of a disclosure agreement for services with Tony's Concrete Construction Company.
Motion.
Second.
For those of you that are interested, this is a wall that is inside DPW that was, OSHA was on the spot, did an inspection. They were able to wait to get this done. There were no violations issued, but we do have to do the work, so thank you. Roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yeah.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
2025-73, authorization for refunds for recreation basketball.
Motion.
Second.
And the roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
2025-74, authorization for a refund of a construction permit.
Motion.
Second.
And the roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
2025-75 is authorization to enter into a professional service contract for a labor attorney with Shank Price Smith and King. I'd like to request a motion and a resolution this evening to formally nominate Shank Price Smith and King as the labor attorney for the Borough of Hopatcong. They've served in this role for the past several years and are currently handling multiple ongoing labor matters on behalf of the borough. Given the complexity and importance of these issues, it's imperative that we maintain continuity with our legal representation. Their knowledge of our personal history, active negotiations, and pending cases makes them uniquely positioned to continue effectively advocating for Hopatcong's best interest for the remainder of 2024.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
And a roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
No.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes, but the comment was for the remaining of 24. It should be the remaining of 25.
25. Thank you, Steve.
No problem.
There's a lot of numbers in this room tonight.
Yeah.
Seriously.
was that a yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Ms. Rodriguez,
No.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. 2025-76, appointment of a temporary fire official.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
And the roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Ms. Kukovic, Mr.
Yeah.
Kukovic. Ms. Rodriguez.
It's getting late, Shauna. Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Can I just make a comment about this one? So this is that what she'd asked before about the smoke certs. So again, out of the Sussex County Sheriff's Office, we are transitioning to working with them for smoke certs and fire official inspections. So from this point forward, you would reach out to Sussex County for those inspections. The information is already on our website, and they've been great at handling the transition and will continue to do that work for us.
Thank you. 2025-77, moving along. This is the appointment of a part-time site manager for the nutrition program for Casey Howard. This is a part-time position, 22.5 hours per week. Can I have a motion?
Second.
And a roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Johnson,
Abstain.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. 2025-78, appointment of our tax assessor, our new tax assessor, Kristen Umansky.
I'll make the
Motion.
motion.
I'm sorry.
And the roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, and
Ms. Smith.
welcome.
Yes, well.
Kristen, welcome aboard.
Thank you for staying this long.
Seriously.
Make sure we got you.
Did you say it's fun? She belongs.
Moving on to 2025-79, authorization for an award of water testing services.
Motion.
Second.
And the roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes. Yes.
And moving on to the bill list,
I voted
twenty
twice.
2025-70. I have a motion for the bill list.
Motion.
Does anybody have anything that needs to be removed?
I just have a question. What's all this recreation basketball numbers? It's very expensive.
So they pay, so the basketball program. You pay to register, and out of those registration fees.
Yeah.
The uniform, the rental of the gym, we sometimes have to pay the gym, the school for the gym
Yeah.
use. And then we also pay scorekeepers and refs for the games, but that all comes out of that trust, but we're the pass-through for it.
Okay, and then the pizzas?
Yes, it's all, it all comes out of the
$450.
recreation trust.
Well, they
Okay.
do,
The basketball.
end of party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just didn't know what
Yeah, they do an end
it
of
seemed
year
like a
party.
lot of
They don't
money.
do pizza.
Because I think it was the last whole month, right, of the basketball program that was paid out.
It just looks.
It looks like a lot, but it's,
Okay,
yeah, and they do.
Okay.
And
But it all
Chris,
comes out
and
of the
Christine,
basketball trust.
yes.
Christine, just for,
Yeah.
for mention too. Wendy does a cost analysis per basketball player, and that's what we figure out what the registration fees are. So at the end of the year, we can be in the black, and that's something that, was highlighted for some of the other programs that the town has taken over that we need to do as well. So, we
Yeah.
can definitely do that with the other one.
Okay, I think it's a great program. I just didn't know why we.
Yeah, and no, it looks like a lot. It looks like a lot.
Yeah.
So did anybody have anything to be taken out? Yep.
Jen, so I have 4, they're all
Okay.
25,
Okay.
00721, 00752,
Uh-huh.
00760,
Uh-huh.
00772.
Okay. So can I get a motion to move the bills list less those 4?
You don't have to pay.
What? Nope, I don't have anything to take out.
Motion.
Second,
Roll?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
I do the roll call.
I'm sorry, I
It's okay.
I got like overzealous
Okay.
with it.
calm down.
Did you get those, Shauna, those 4? Yes.
Did you get everybody?
You have to call for the roll.
Yeah, the roll call, okay.
okay. Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, and then, right, me, yeah, a motion to, pass 25-00721, 25-00752, 25-00760, 25-00772.
Motion.
Second,
And the roll call?
Mr. Bongiovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Falcone,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic,
Abstain?
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
yes.
Thank you. Moving on to the introduction of ordinances, we did the introduction for the budget. The next one is 4-2025, the amendment of section 242-17A, commercial vehicle parking. Do I need a motion in a second before I open the public.
You don't have to open.
No, not for introductions.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, it was the, I'm sorry, it was the other,
Yeah.
the properties. Can I have a motion in a second to talk about it? or-
Motion.
Second.
Yeah, so where are we now with it? We had the work session.
So you have a couple of options. You can make the motion to pass it as it is and send it to the land use board. You can table it for another time, wait for Shelby to come up with a process that would be new for state workers, federal workers, and whatnot, which was the suggestion of the engineer. Or you could continue to move forward with it. Like I said, going to the land use board, getting their recommendations.
So what would happen is if we introduce it, we can introduce it and then it would go to the land use board for review. And then it would come back to us for passage, for
Yes.
finalization.
Unless they have other recommendations.
Okay, so, but without introducing it, it won't go to land use, correct?
But they're saying
Like-
unless we decide on another avenue, right? Like, so for instance, who would set the price if we were to formalize another process where people could apply to be like, hey, I want to pay a permit price of whatever, who sets that price?
I would say let the administrator set something up and we can work with whatever it is. I mean, it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be, like, again, like the engineer was saying, it's supposed to be
Right.
fair and that's what we
Mhm.
want to do. So,
If there's a fee, it would have to become an ordinance at some point.
Right, the
Right.
council would have to pass an ordinance that adjusts the fees.
Okay, so we
So
made a
we
motion,
table.
so we made a motion in a second, but if I make a motion to table, that'll supersede the original motion in
Correct.
second. So I will make a motion to table upon further discussion of forming a new process.
I will second.
That Madison, see, we know,
And-
we know it supersedes.
and what I would suggest too, Rachel, is if there is something that you have in mind, I would definitely share that so that.
Shelby knows I'm no stranger to sharing my mind with.
Okay, so we're gonna table 4-2025.
Just want to make sure it's affordable.
And, okay, so we have no final hearings, old business.
Do we have to roll call to table it or no?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, and the roll call the table.
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Yes.
Mr. Falcone.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Kukovic.
Yes.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. There are no final hearings. Moving on to the old business, the fire committee.
Yes, I think the next two things, but we'll talk about fire committee specifically. I know we have the holdover committee. I guess like Councilman Johnson and I are meeting with them, but we weren't sure if we were just gonna wait until 2025 to establish a formal one. I'm sorry, 2026 to establish.
It's a lot of numbers,
I don't know
Rach,
what
a
you're
lot of
doing.
numbers.
Wait till 2026 to reestablish one, or if one was gonna be established for the remainder of this year? Only because we had held off on it in the beginning of the year.
Right. We were waiting to get a different opinion, I think is what you were waiting for, was to get a different opinion. If council collaboratively wanted to alter that committee, I would have no problem altering the committee if that's what you chose to do also.
Yeah. Oh, well, one doesn't exist for the year. That's why it was brought back up.
Well, we have it. It's just there's that question of the one member of whether or not they can be on the committee or not, is what it was. So we were waiting to get a neutral opinion on that. So you can do that if you choose to, but if the council chooses to alter that committee but again, that might be something you want to talk in little committees about, so that you're not all together.
Let me just see if maybe I can reach out to the council and see what the consensus is.
Mhm. I mean, you all know my thoughts, you all know my reasons of why I picked what I
course,
picked,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it was, but it's completely up to you if you want to alter that in some way, plus you'd have to talk to that number too.
Of course.
Oh my gosh, I can't read now. The police commission, I put on here because I know you had been asking for it for a while. So do you want to talk to it or do you want me to talk to it?
No, we used to have a police commissioner and I asked about it because I think there should be a liaison but although they're very forthcoming in talking to us. And the mayor said that she wanted to reconfigure a commissioner to a commission. And we were gonna talk about it, but I'd like.
We
to-
we can certainly put the police commission on for the next agenda, that's fine, and have that all. done.
Okay,
Can we-
I just think it's something we should have. There, I mean, we have relays on almost everything.
No, I agree, I do agree.
And there has been one historically, so.
So
Should be.
can
I
I,
agree with that.
so I think that in understanding the commission and reading the ordinance for the police commission, I think it would be irresponsible of us to continue with the police commission. My opinion is I think we should dissolve the police commission ordinance. It should become a committee or part of the first responders committee, because in the commission ordinance, if you read it, you name a commissioner from the council, which means that our chief of police is reporting to a civilian.
Correct.
Right, one of us.
Mhm.
The chief of police is reporting to us, one of us. My opinion is that I think that the chief of police should be reporting to the administrator, and that is it. I don't think that we know enough about policing or anything that has to do with that to get involved or to be an extra level of bureaucracy in what our chief of police needs to already do in an already stressful situation with her own department.
Correct.
So-
I will second your comments and I agree. Our
That's-
chief is more than capable and runs a fantastic department
Without our
with,
oversight.
exactly.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we can distribute the current ordinance to everybody, so everybody has it, right? We can get the current ordinance to everybody. And then in between now and then, why doesn't everybody singularly just get comments back to me? And then we can go from there, and then we'll make sure it's on the next agenda as an update or as a new formulated plan.
And the phrase that Jennifer's referring, it's in the ordinance, it says responsible to, and that's where she's pulling that from. It's that phrase, responsible to, within the policing, that's.
So you can always
there-
amend that and get
It's,
that
it's
out
that
too.
phrase
That's bothersome.
that dictates the chain of command with police, right?
But what's the point of a commission and a commissioner without that?
I think it's the
I
committee.
just
No,
thought
it's
it
it's
was
the
a
committee.
liaison to.
Well, no,
have
it is. You're right.
dialogue
So
with
it's the police committee, but within the
council.
committee, there is a selected police commissioner.
I understand.
So they're just saying to keep the police committee, but remove the
Remove that
commissioner.
The word
responsible
report to. You'd
Yeah,
also have to
that
change the,
phrasing of
Yeah.
the responsible to, because in the police world, that's what dictates the chain of command, that responsible to.
Right.
but it's
Right.
also in the
That's-
ordinance.
I'm not speaking out of turn, right? No.
Right, yeah.
In the ordinance, it reads as a commission, not a committee. So if you wanted to have a committee, that'd be cool. But I think where it's the commission and the commissioner is where it's responsible to. So you
Yeah.
have to make the commission a committee.
Well, so we'll mark
Yeah,
it up. We'll do
got it,
whatever we have to do.
Got it.
Yeah, that's why I said, let's get it to everybody and
You got
then we
it.
can
Yeah.
go from there.
I think that it would be helpful to understand why they wrote that ordinance that way. It also would be helpful
Ahead
to
of
understand
time, yeah.
how boroughs of our size typically do it. We want to make sure that we capture all that,
Yeah.
I do agree. Having Megan does an absolutely wonderful job there. And having her report to a commissioner that doesn't have experience doesn't logically seem to make sense, but I think it would be prudent to understand why they might have written that ordinance that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And what other boroughs are doing.
Mhm. Do we know how old the ordinance is?
It's from the
It's not-
seventies.
it's-
I thought it was from the seventies.
Well, the
It was
update
amended.
was amended
recently.
recently.
So I haven't seen the original, I just, I see what it is now, and it says that it was amended recently,
think it
so
was
I don't know what
2022.
exactly changed from the old to the one that's currently in place.
Yeah, and just
Okay.
keep in mind with your research, our chief of police also reports to the attorney general for the state and the county prosecutor. So there is oversight. It's not like a free for all. If we're like, hey, we don't want this, she's out on her own. Like, just keep that in the back of your mind when you research what you're gonna research.
She's the last person I'm worried.
Exactly.
Seriously.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll do that. We'll make sure everybody gets a copy of the ordinance for the police commission.
All right, so we did A.
Okay, so that's good. So moving on to new business, we did the introduction of the municipal budget, the Economic Development Committee.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Okay, so I think it would be, beneficial for us to form an economic development committee. We have one for the county. I think it's time that we focus a lot more on businesses. That's been a long time ask from the residents, is how do we get more businesses in? What can we do to welcome more businesses, to make us more business friendly? So I think having a focus there should be something that the council takes a look at.
Okay. Is that something that you want us to have, Timmy Horsfeld come down and give us a presentation, or?
Well, no, I want to see if council agrees with forming an
Well,
economic.
that's what I mean. She can come and speak to us to let us know what happens, and then maybe if somebody's interested, they can grab
I mean, do
onto
we
it.
have people, have we ever in the past had people go out and solicit, corporate headquarters or something? Do we have any space left for things like that? You know, where
But we
you go find
Sorry, go
a
ahead.
small corporation or a clean machine shop or whatever? Do we have any room for trying to get ratables? That's, that's one of the things we're lacking.
Well, I think economic development, especially, I think economic development, especially from a business perspective, isn't necessarily being able to have new business come in. It'd be great to have new business come in, but we need to, in Hopatcon, redevelop what we already have, because we don't have a lot of large spaces left of everything.
That's.
So having economic development come in, and being a part of economic development, in some of my past, again, it's something that's helpful for businesses where they do hosting nights where it's a meet and greet for businesses to meet each other, to help solicit each other's businesses. There's a lot of promotion of business within an economic development committee. So I think an economic development committee is a great thing. I just think it would probably be advantageous to have Tammy Horsfeld come here, do a presentation, because it might be something you're interested in being on. So I think if she comes and if she does her promotion, it might be something that, you're looking for, and she could inform everybody at the same time what everything is. And then, you can form your committee, from.
I agree with having a conversation with Tammy, but I think if we're doing the fire committee, by letting our council president have conversations with the rest of council, I mean, I'm okay with having her communicate to each one of us individually to see who has interest before we have somebody come down to see if there's enough interest to warrant even having her come down. Does that make sense? So
I just think she would like to come down and talk to people and have an audience and.
Well, let's
what
see
she
what
has.
we,
I'm
let's see what
into
shakes
new
out by next
education,
committee,
fine.
next meeting, and then
I don't care.
we'll go from there.
Yeah.
I'll talk to
No, I
anybody.
think it's a good idea, because anything to help promote business, especially in this day and age with everything that's going on.
Yeah, we wanna keep what we have, and we wanna, we do have empty storefronts that I think it would be advantageous of us to bring in new businesses.
We have a lot of committees. Is there any committees that we could merge that task in with? Or
Well, I
be a
think
little bit more
real estate and economic development, I think would be good, but I think for economic, I also want to talk to the vacant spaces that are now. I want to talk to the landlords and really have a full understanding of the limitations within those spaces. For instance, we had a 24/7 access gym that was going to come into town. The landlord wouldn't allow them to build showers. So I think it's hard for us to go out and try to solicit businesses to come
It
to
is.
Hopatcon if we don't have a full scope of what the spaces allow for.
Right.
So I want to
Okay.
spend a little bit more time on that, but I think it should be like, not just one person, it should be.
And I
Several.
think business is a lot different than it used to be even 10 years ago with storefronts, because so many people run businesses out of their home and just out of their iPads, they're doing it while they're, sitting there doing their laundry at home. So having the storefronts and having what they have, even a lot of the business owners are changing their retail space, into residential space because they can't rent the commercial space.
Right.
So, yeah, so it's just one of those, but I think it's a great idea. I think it's something that's
I like it too. Yeah.
useful.
I just want to, on your note to us, I don't.
I know, I had
Okay,
already sent it by the time you said
Wanna be
that.
on that one.
I was hoping you didn't notice.
It's okay.
What, the communication?
No, open space.
got it,
I said if I'm gonna do one, I can't do
Got it, got
the
it.
other.
Moving on, Memorial Plaques Road for those of 50 years of volunteerism.
So this has been a thought of mine for quite some time. I know that we have 2 memorial roads for our Gold Star, for our killed in action young men, right here. And I think that we need to really look at and reward and celebrate the people who have given us 50 years of volunteerism. I'm sure that we can probably get a list from, I know, our fire department is volunteer. I don't know if CERT's been around that long, but
EMS.
EMS,
Are
we
you
have
only-
volunteers.
Are you only doing emergency services? Are you doing volunteers, like people who have been involved in like
If we get,
sports?
if we can get a list of
seniors?
people
I'm
that
just wondering how
that
do
have
we?
volunteered for 50 years from
Yeah.
EMS, from fire, from sports. I think that it would be, I think it would be a really great idea and mean a lot to people to have the roads that they live on named after them as a memorial. I've spoken to Shelby about it. She
There's
said
no
it,
shortage of roads in Hopatcon, so.
right, right.
Oh my God.
I've spoken to Shelby about it and we, it wouldn't be that much of an expense to do that. And I think it would mean a whole lot to those people who 50 years is a long time. 50 years is a really, really long time. So
I think we need to just formalize criteria other than just saying 50 years. There would have to be obviously like an application process and an approval process and a database, which is what we need because we don't end up with databases, we end up with paper lists and that becomes. a
We
problem.
also
Can I
have-
piggyback? Oh.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say to add on to that though, I think, and maybe we touch upon the hometown hero banners too. Like, I don't think anybody who has served or given their life or volunteered for 50 years should have to pay for these things. You know, people with hometown hero banners, they have to pay for those things themselves. I think if we can offer sponsorships, not just to local businesses, but have sponsorship spots available for outside businesses, say if you wanna sponsor a hometown hero banner, this offsets the cost for our hero, so they don't have to pay for it out of pocket.
I believe the hometown heroes, the applicant pays $100, but I think the borough pays $200, doesn't it? Of it, isn't it
Mhm.
$300 total?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, because we have the cost of public works, putting them up
Right,
and down,
right,
and,
right.
you know, all of
Right,
that.
I think it was.
But it's
$300.
really not the person getting it that's paying.
It's the family.
It's the family, it could be a neighbor, it could be
Mhm. Whoever,
if
yeah.
whoever, and that, it was a way of developing it, so
Because they
the
keep it in the
taxpayers.
end. Yeah,
Yes,
they
the
keep it in
way,
the
yeah,
end.
exactly, and the way it was to,
Yeah,
so the
something to think
taxpayers
around.
weren't
Mhm.
impacted by it, yeah. We also have Rotary Park in the back here, which, there was discussion a couple of years ago when, two of the Rotarians that have been there 50 years donated benches in there. And then someone else came through and, donated another bench, but you could, similarly to your bricks that you did over here, you could acknowledge people with little plaques or a tree, like label a tree. In Freedom, we labeled trees in honor of
Benches,
so and
things
so
like
and
that.
stuff. So you have a memorial park kind of established that you could continue in also if the street thing didn't work out. It's just another avenue to honor somebody. Or, somebody was, mayor for 85 years and you want to buy him a bench, you can. Right.
That would be Dick Hudson. Dick Hudson was mayor for a very, very long time. In different decades, all three decades, the 80s, the 90s and the 2000s.
Well, it's a nice option because it's a beautiful park and Rotary came in and cleaned it up and it's right in our parking lot. So it's just something to be considered because you couldn't even see the symbol of the Rotary Club, which does do a lot of work for us. Until they cut all the bushes down and found the sign.
oh
So
my gosh.
I think it's a way we could add to the memorials.
Okay.
No, it's a good idea.
All right, I'll see if I can have maybe something up for the next meeting. Or do you want to work on that? You want me to work on
We can talk.
that? Okay, we don't do that enough.
Not enough, yeah.
Moving along, recreational cannabis.
Okay, so 5 years ago, the recreational cannabis was approved, legalization was approved in the state of New Jersey in 2019. And in 2020, there were applications that were allowed for the approval of recreational cannabis sales in towns. In April of 2020, the borough at that time decided to prohibit the recreational sales of cannabis in Hopatcon. I am looking at our 8.5% budget, our tax increase this year, and looking for additional sources of revenue. I've gone back and forth on this. I was actually the only one on the council that was for the recreational sale of cannabis in Hopatcon. I was in vast minority. I was 1 against 5. I think that the 5-year moratorium ends at the end of this month. And I think that if our budget is funded by taxes and grants, I think that recreational cannabis would be an additional avenue of revenue that we could potentially bring into the borough. I don't think it would pay off this year or possibly even next year, but I think that it would definitely help moving forward. I also, I went back and forth with it because it's been 5 years. I know Rockaway has a couple, I know Andover has a couple, and I said to myself, the market's already saturated. It's been 5 years. It's not worth it. We have 3 liquor stores in Hopatcong, and none of them are going out of business. So I'm not really worried with this, but I think that it would be advantageous of the borough to look into recreational cannabis sales in Hopatcong. Start with 1, we start small, and then, in a non-school area.
Hey, Jen, what's the economics on that for us?
It's a 2% revenue.
I think I was involved in a couple of conversations about that at the time, and I think they felt that it would generate less than $10,000 a year for the town.
Well,
And it would bring in a specific element, and that's where a lot of
listen,
people.
cannabis,
Personally,
I understand, cannabis is here, okay? And also in the 2020 election, or the 2019 election to legalize marijuana in the state of New Jersey, the state average that voted yes, state average was 67% of New Jerseyans voted yes for the legalization of marijuana. Hopatcong, 72% of Hopatcong residents voted for the legalization of marijuana, cannabis. So that for me is an overwhelming, what's the word I'm looking for? Mandate to us that that's what should have happened back in 2020. And now that there's been a 5-year listen, if you, this is not a personal thing for me. I do not partake in it at all. I am in it purely for the revenue. I gotta be honest. But, and because I have a lot of people who come and ask me, the 5-year moratorium's up. When are we bringing this up again? It was voted down the last time. When are we bringing it up? There's a lot of interest and it's here. You can have it delivered to your door, right? You can have it delivered to your door. It's here. And I think it would be a good spot for us because I think the next closest place is Andover. I don't think Byram,
They're open here.
Byram? Stanhope, no. Stanhope voted down.
Roxbury. There's 3 in Andover, 2 in Byram. They just opened up this in the last 6 months.
Well, you couldn't have because there was, yes. Okay, well, Stanhope,
Let's keep the conversation here, please.
Stanhope voted down 5 years ago. So that's what my proposal is. I think that I've reached out to the school. I've spoken to the superintendent. He has no opinion on it. He doesn't feel that it would be harmful or beneficial at all to the school system and the students because there is an age at which you can buy. We've reached out to the chief of police. They have more problems with the illegal places that sell cannabis than the legal places. So I think it would be in our best interest to talk about it, discuss it, perhaps come up with an ordinance for the next meeting to discuss. And
Jen, between now and then, and I can help you if you need, I think we should get some numbers on paper. I know Christine mentioned 10,000, but you mentioned 2%. But I don't know if other townships will talk to us about how maybe Andover would be a good start, if not Rockaway. I know ones that have been established for maybe year over year to see what that revenue looks like, even if it's a revenue growth that we could look at for like a 2 to 3 year trajectory.
I can reach
on
out
those.
to Andover and Rockaway, absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
thanks.
just getting their experience.
Thanks, Joe.
Getting their experience as well, just not the economics, right? But are there other unintended consequences as a result? You know, you just mentioned that they said they have police have a bigger problem with the people that are illegally selling it.
Illegally
Yeah, no, I
selling.
got it, illegally selling, but I think we just want to make that, I got that part. I think we just want to make sure that, that some of the surrounding towns and the like too haven't had a different problem with it. So I think doing the homework on it is good, and it could be a potential source of revenue. But
the-
let's make sure we cross our Ts.
But
and
I
dot
also
our
think
Is.
it's something that we'd also want to hear from the public with too, because even though they voted, 72% voted in New Jersey to legalize, 72% didn't vote to sell it here.
Why would you vote to legalize it if you couldn't buy it in your own town?
Well, because
They don't
you're
want it
voting to
next
use
door.
it. You're voting to be able to get it into, I'm just saying, because
We can hear from the public.
I think I think we just need to hear
Sure.
from all. I mean, I think it's a very good revenue source, and you've heard its revenue sources. But again, I just, putting this in people's neighborhoods is,
We're not gonna put it in a neighborhood.
No, but I mean, again.
It's not gonna be at my house.
On Lakeside Boulevard, you put it into downtown River Six, you put it into a store. You put it into a storefront, it's in somebody's neighborhood. So again, we want to make sure that we hear from everybody so that we can, whatever the concerns are, we can get them.
Like this,
first.
we have to do a good amount of.
And we did-
diligence to make sure we're making the right.
We did also speak to the chief about the unintended consequences, and she reached out to all of her chiefs in towns that have recreational cannabis stores.
Right.
And there have been no unintended consequences.
Well,
So
I'm
in that
certainly-
respect,
I'm certainly good with doing the homework on it. Let's make sure. we're
And that would be
just
great to
well-informed.
have the
Yeah.
chief here and saying that to a room full of people. That would be very good.
that's, I mean,
I
That
think
would,
it-
that
well,
would make people comfortable. I mean.
Yeah,
that's
no,
the-
and I think, so it's revenue aside, like personally, I don't support it. However, if a vote is held and there is a mandate to bring something into town and then you turn around and put a moratorium in place to block it, why are we up here? Because we're not up here to work for what we want. We represent everybody in this town. So, and this isn't at you, I'm just saying in general, like if you held a vote on something locally in Hopatcon and they voted in favor, do I love it? No, but if that's what the vote results came back at, then why waste people's time and give them hope for something and bring hope of revenue to the town just to say, just kidding. We don't personally support it, so we're gonna put a moratorium on it for 5 years. I agree, we have to do our homework, but when the public speaks, we have to listen.
Oh, of course, but again, the wording wasn't to sell it.
Oh,
in
no, I know.
and That's all. And again, you only have limited space of where this would actually go, because it has to go into a store, a commercial store.
Auto parts over there,
So-
that whole area was already
Yeah.
zoned out as a pharmacy.
But again, it's something that we definitely will get all the information on, and it's something that we want to be able to make sure the public's, comfortable with, that we can educate them as much as we possibly can.
Okay.
Appointments. So I created a Highlands Committee. We are out of compliance with Highlands. We have Highlands Preservation and we have Highlands Planning. So we are, working on that. So that would be myself, Shelby, and Anthony was kind enough to say to me once that if I needed somebody for something, a little complicated, he would be happy to join. The Communications Committee was brought up to me about doing a Communications Committee. That would be the administrator. Anthony and Christine volunteered for that. The Finance Committee would be myself, the administrator, the new CFO Judy, Anthony, and I confirmed with Joe that he was still interested on a Finance Committee. So those will be meeting probably sooner. Highlands Committee will be meeting sooner than later, probably out of all of those groups.
For the public, can you just advise what each committee is gonna be responsible for and what they do?
So the Highlands Committee, the New Jersey we are in Highlands Preservation. Our property is in preservation. We have it all over Hopatcon. We are one of the towns in the preservation area, but we are allowed to also do planning in the Highlands area. We have a Highlands Master Plan. There's a lot of different things throughout the state that we have to comply with that have not been complied with in the last several years. So we have to comply with this because we also have to be able to complete our master plan this year. And that's part of it is the Highlands Committee. So that's where the committee is coming in for that. Communications Committee was brought to my attention about possibly trying to find a way to be able to communicate better with the residents of the borough. After speaking with the administrator about it, it's something that she was involved with in her previous municipality and had some really great ideas. That's where that came in from communications, and the Finance Committee is something that we hadn't had in the last few years. So the Finance Committee, hopefully starting early, planning for next year, coming up with the ability to maybe find some other revenue sources and starting on the budget earlier than unfortunately, with our circumstances last year, with all the different administrators, this temporary CFO that we had towards the end of the year, as great as that was to have, it really hindered our budget preparation for this year. And then we got Judy, and she's been here a month, and it sure feels like you've been here a year already, because getting through the budget process has not been very easy. But that's where the finance committee comes in.
Okay, so just also for my records, the Highlands Committee is a mayoral committee?
All of them were mayoral committees.
Should Highlands be, sorry, I was gonna say, because it sounds like the redevelopment committee that exists and Highlands should almost be one and the same as well, no?
Well, no, because they're two completely different things. Redevelopment, you're not redeveloping in the Highlands area, you're adhering to the Highlands area.
But did you see something about the master plan?
The Highlands is in the master plan.
Right.
But so is open space and so is land conservancy. There's a lot of different pieces of the
Okay.
master plan that exists that we have to become compliance with. And I think it would really just become the Highlands by itself, I think is a big overwhelming type of thing to understand between the planning and the preservation to begin with, and what each encompasses. To put redevelopment in with that, I think would not work very well. Why I did them separate.
Okay.
Redevelopment, I think, and economic development could tie together a little bit better.
They can all tie together.
Well, again,
We
they
can tie it together some way.
they can all, yeah, they can all kind of sort of tie together. They can all kind of I mean, again, you have meetings where those people are all together anyway, because you have economic development committee meetings. If the economic development here takes off and we have those larger meetings, you will be having those with all different types of entities, economic development.
For the communications and the finance committee, I know previously, the finance committee has always been a council committee. So I would like some clarification on whether that is a mayoral or a council committee. So if we could hold that off until next meeting, that would, just to get some clarification.
Sure, but again, it's a committee that I put together so that the council members that are there can actually speak with the professionals. If it's a council committee, there's certain things that you can't discuss with the professionals that are there. But we can get clarification on those things, that's fine.
Council members should be able to talk to any professional if they want to.
I don't know, you can talk to any professional that you want to, there are certain things that can't be spoken of, but if you can't tell personnel.
The
We
finance
can't
committee
talk,
shouldn't be
we can't talk
talking
about personnel with anybody anyway, no matter what committee we're on, so
Right.
clarification.
Clarification. Nope, no problem.
Okay, and the
Oh,
communications committee, if we could do the same thing too. So you want the, do you want a motion for the Highlands Committee?
I don't need a motion for anything.
it's just a mayor appointment.
They're mayor committees, I don't need them.
But we're gonna hold on to 2 and 3, correct? Okay.
Okay, moving on to public comment. Can I have a motion to open to the public?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion, I'm sorry, the meeting is open to the public for anything and everything that's on the agenda and off the agenda.
Lynn Ritchie. I think you could have put a little bit more diversity on your committees, but same person, 3 committees. Okay.
Okay.
I think everyone should really keep your comments to yourself about dispensaries until you go and visit a dispensary. Because it's not like a little seedy shack that you go in and you buy your drugs behind a counter. You go into the facility and there's a locked foyer where a person is standing who takes your ID. And they review your ID, and upon review of your ID, if you are over the age of consent, they then unlock another door that you may enter. And then you enter a room of the most amazing display of product that is available to the consumer. And the prices, what they want to charge. You will find Andover's product will be $6 more than Netcong's product, and Elmwood Park will be $10 cheaper. You want to know about marijuana sales? Call the town of Elmwood Park.
I'm writing it down.
And you talk to that mayor who is begging that dispensary to build more. Because he's right on Route 46. You go in, you get your product, you get out. 5-minute transactions. That man is making so much damn money. I asked him to come up to this town and talk to you all because you're all missing a window of opportunity. They're not all junkies. These are people who need it for medical reasons, but can't afford the medical marijuana prices. They don't want to deal with illegal people that can get sourced. Put it in the wellness center. The police station's right there. They can keep track on all the traffic going in and out. What happens is they buy the product, they open their trunk, they put it in their trunk, they close their trunk, they go to their personal space, unlock it, and go home. No one's driving with it in their car. They're not firing it up in the parking lot. This is a profession. This is a profession that is needed. I see more people outside the liquor store popping their bottles to get in the car before they even leave. And you guys are all questioning one dispensary that we've missed the window of opportunity already because Netcon, Andover, Byram, they're all opening them. Every block, take a ride down 206. Every one of them are now selling legal marijuana. And we're sitting here saying, let's have a committee. Let's have a meeting. Let's debate this. Let's do this. Knock it off. We're broke. The town has no fucking money coming in here. Excuse my language. We've got no revenue coming in here. We're eating all of our taxes. We had a CFO who misappropriated money for years and it was never detected. And you're all wondering, we have to have a committee to talk about one dispensary? Come on, everyone.
I don't think.
Come on.
I don't think anybody sat here and dismissed the idea.
No, you didn't. You have to go further review.
That's correct.
Clean your mind.
And that's our job.
No, the town told you 5 years ago what your mind should have been doing. And they said no. No, well, do it again, but miss that window. Wait 6 months. We're dead. Wait. Hold off on it. Wait. Knock it off. Save us here. Stop your crazy spending and start bringing revenue into town. Jesus Christ. Can't stand it.
Thank you.
I'll try to be really quick. I'll second her sentiment only because of the revenue source that we could have. Napa Auto Parts that came in lieu of the dispensary was already zoned out as a pharmacy. It was paved. And the type of revenue you would see on that is just ridiculous, but I'm just bouncing off of that because it was already brought up. I just want to make sure that everybody understands and knows that the only reason why I come up here and say anything in front of the public, which is not my choice to do, quite frankly, is because, no, I do not have a voice with you, Miss Snow, do I?
I've met with you at town hall multiple times.
Have you told me I'm not allowed to ask you any questions?
No, I have not told you that.
So that is no longer a problem?
I've talked with you many times. You're in town hall.
We can set up,
frequently.
yes, I know, and then police come
That's
when I
not
want to
from
just
me.
ask a question.
That's not from me.
No, that comes from the tax office that says that it's not her job to reconcile my tax payments or her job to reconcile my water payments
No.
or
it's-
her
it's
job to
because you
reconcile
get
my sewer
irate.
payments
It's because
that
you
are
get irate
flying
and
out,
threaten
by the way,
employees. That's what-
going
that's
to
what's
other
happening.
establishments without my consent. I don't know if you realize that or think that I don't.
Again,
All
you
right.
come to town hall quite frequently and you threaten employees and.
No,
cause a
I
scene
do
in the
not
hallway.
threaten
So that's-
anybody,
you
okay?
do, You do.
Wait,
quite
with
often.
what?
You say a lot of things.
I say a lot of things.
You do, yeah.
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? The town has helped to instrument title theft on my house. Are you kidding me? And I've been
That's
nothing
not-
but
that's not what's
appropriate and polite. Believe me, considering the circumstances, I am being extremely calm.
Right now you are, yeah.
I always am. Because if there were a problem, then I'm sure it would have been reported. But it never
It
is.
does when the police come and escort you out of the building, yes.
No, I never get escorted out. Read the police reports.
Okay.
any case, do I have a voice with you?
Yes,
Can I set up a meeting with you?
you do, yes,
No, can I set up a meeting with you?
yes,
Okay. When can I do that?
yeah, call me,
Okay,
email me, we'll set up a time,
that's all I'm asking for.
okay?
I mean, this is terrifying to me, and it's also affecting my medical benefits.
Okay.
The nonsense that was allowed to go on is jeopardizing my health, and I don't know if that bothers the board, and I know that we're very concerned about our health on this board, aren't we? I think it should be extended to all residents, not just council members. That is the only reason why I come here, because I do not have a voice at the town.
Nadine, just so you know, as another resource, if you feel like we're not doing anything appropriately, or if for some reason the police department is not doing anything appropriately, you are always welcome to go to the county prosecutor's office and start a case with them.
That's
to
really
investigate
sad.
What's going on.
That
I'm not
that's where
saying
it
you
comes
have to. I'm saying that is another option.
really
If you feel
sad.
you've exhausted all of your options, there are always additional resources. So I don't want you to ever feel like you're stuck, is what I'm saying. I'm offering you additional resources.
I don't know how you guys say you can know. I have a cybersecurity director of a very, very large investment firm that caters to a lot of your communications. And my husband was also part of those communications. He said, Ms. Patzer, I am so sorry. You have one of the worst identity theft situations I've seen in my entire career.
Okay.
I would like them to make, I'd like the town to take it as seriously as they did. I'd like the town to take it as seriously as the IRS is. I'd like the town to please. I paid for my house and then some. Why are you not protecting me? And yes, I have brought information to the police department. I've given them evidence of money that's been stolen. I don't know why you think this is funny, Miss Snow.
What were
this is
their,
not-
Nadine, what were their findings?
Oh, they haven't assigned a detective yet. It's been 6 months.
Mhm.
Thank you. Anyone else, Pete?
I'll ask from here.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, long walk.
under old business, the fire committee, okay, what was the result on that? Was that like tabled or was that?
No, the council was gonna discuss, through the council president, what was gonna happen for members on that.
Okay. All right, so I'll just check my that.
Okay, just stick a pin in it. Just stick a pin in it.
Well, it's either a check mark, a table, or it's like, nothing. Thank you.
Can I ask the 2025-74, who the construction company is for that permit?
2025 74.
74?
Oh, construction permit.
We
No.
just have, we have block 11209 lot 10 for Danielle Idarola.
Okay. And I like your idea of the volunteer thing, and I think there's a lot of sustainability. And I think you can tack that on to the volunteer list, because you mentioned sports people, you mentioned a lot of other volunteers, and there's a lot of people who do a lot of environmental things. There's people who do the garden. So I think maybe those people are good volunteers.
Thank you.
Yeah, you had said earlier, we pay rent for the school for basketball of their gym. I mean, if they're in the same town, why are we paying them rent?
So,
Go ahead, you can answer.
so the policy that the school has in place is that if we use certain schools on certain days, we don't have to pay for it because the custodians are there. If we have it at a different place on a different day, like Durban the high school on a Saturday, we don't have to pay for it. Durban on a Saturday, we do because we have to pay the custodians to come in and do the cleanup after. That's what that fee is.
Oh, okay. So not all the custodians work on a Saturday?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
At certain schools, yeah. So the high
Thank you,
school,
Joe.
yeah.
Only thank you. I was like, as soon as I said it, I was like, yeah.
Okay, can I, you have to stand. Can I just-
You can stand there.
It's late, Lisa.
That's my bedtime.
I know. Girl, yeah.
So, did I hear the auditor say, if we can get some hard numbers, did I hear him say for every 380 in your assessment? That the 8.5, was it 8.5 or 8.9?
8.5.
8.5.
8.5, thank you, that's what I thought, is about 180 per year?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so if your assessment is
$380,000.
double that, you're really only look, because I think,
$360.
so I think that a lot of the uncertainty could be helped
Yes.
by putting the actual numbers out there.
I like that, Lisa.
Because
I
at
like
the
it.
end of the day, that's not that bad. No, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't try to find, because I think with all our might, we should try to find other ways to bring revenue into the town and offset that, and then just moving forward, so this doesn't keep happening.
And when you hear
However,
8.5%, you freak out, right?
Exactly,
Right.
and then now, but we also need to know what the additional 5% from the school board is as well.
right, but just remember, Lisa, we didn't have this to give to you the other day.
I get it, but I'm saying we have it now.
Yes.
Right,
And so
right.
what I'm
Mhm.
saying is, there's a lot of misinformation in regard to what that means, numbers wise, per household. Okay, I'm just,
If only we had somebody to make the.
Piggyback on that, when you add the towns plus the school, that's like 13%, and people are freaking out.
I understand that, but we have to operate we have to operate independently. We have to make the decisions for the
yeah,
town.
but it does impact us as a whole, and that
Of
needs
course.
to be, at
We
least
will
acknowledged.
absolutely get that narrative out, but again, we had to do this process first.
Yeah.
Before we
Yeah.
could do
Well,
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that is a big
I don't blame you.
relief. Look, it's not gonna be a relief for some people.
I know.
It just isn't. You know, and as, again, as a local realtor, people would ask me that question, what does that mean? And I'd like to have an answer.
When you're doing the math, though, you don't add the school and the tax for the municipality together. You know, if people are thinking that, you know, it's 8 here and 5 there, and it's coming to 13, they're looking
really
at that,
13.
you know, they're coming up with a number that's way higher than what the actual increase in the taxes will be.
That's why
Yeah,
actual numbers
yeah,
would be.
yeah.
More bueno.
Yeah, and not just a narrative, I think that the town could put out like a visual graphic as well
Yes,
for
we
those
will.
who don't like reading. Even though we read a lot here. I'm a visual person. I like seeing the breakout and everything else, so.
Anyone else have anything?
I guess like maybe data cross checking. Like, I don't know numbers, math is not my forte.
Yeah,
Because like maybe some kind of QA or something. I don't know. Shelby, you're the numbers one. I'm not.
No, we have a CFO.
Oh, that's what the CFO. I don't know. Like I said, math is not my thing, but I don't know, to see some like the data, because what you. Like what he was saying, like with those 15 like errors or things like that, to try and find the discrepancies. I'm a data person. I guess to see where there's data discrepancies, sees where there's discrepancies in those numbers or something to have like someone cross check.
There's a lot of.
It's a lot
oversight on that.
By the time it gets to the auditor, there's a lot.
They're good, yeah.
Heavy
exactly.
hitting stuff.
Anyone else have a question? Not seeing anything, motion to bring it back?
Motion.
Second.
I just want to say, because I didn't say it earlier, I wanted to wish everybody a happy Passover and a happy Easter and congratulate all of our employees that left. Unfortunately, it's sad to see people go, Frank and Therese and Mason, obviously, and congratulations to our recipient cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion back.
All in favor?
Aye.